And what's up, everyone? We are live. Well, it's Monday, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and you know what that means. That means it's time for the Live with Tavo series that we do every week, every Monday, 5 p.m., right on this channel. I'm really glad that you all are here, and I'm really excited to share some things with you today. First, let me get some announcements out of the way. We've got a special guest in the backstage, but let me just do some quick announcements. Announcement number one, I'm going to be live again on Wednesday of this week with the Reexamination Show. Really great YouTube channel, really great Christian, fantastic philosopher. I'm really excited to present what is a very novel argument that he has put together, which is called the triage argument. So we're going to be talking about that this coming Wednesday, I think around the same time, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So please do join us for that. He's a really great thinker, and I'm really glad to have him on the channel. And by the way, he recently, on Friday, did a really wonderful debate about the Trinity. It was also really fantastic. He did it with On Day 3, who was briefly earlier today in this very chat. So maybe OD3 is still here, and I invited him to share the link. So if you haven't seen that debate, definitely check it out. If you're interested in debating the Trinity or topics around Trinitarian theology, that's a fantastic resource to watch. It's a fantastic source to take a look at. LA Apologetics has a great new video up, so I'm going to check that out again right after this chat. Reexamination Show is right up here. Thanks Macintosh Pro for putting that on the screen. And yeah, Jake, if you want to come up, you're welcome to join the conversation. And Macintosh Pro says that this is On Day 3's channel. Let me talk about some of the topics that I wanted to introduce today. Let's start with this one. So let me remove this here. So I'm in the midst of revising the CTF argument, which is maybe the most important argument that I've had on the channel. That's my historiographical take on kind of a cross-theological analysis. And the argument is called the comparative theological framework, where I weigh the evidence for each theology. But I would like to talk to some of you, at least today, about what criteria I should add to the CTF argument. I think it would be a really interesting thing to add to that argument. I think I'd love to get your input on that. So that's one topic for today. What are the criteria that we should have for choosing one theology over another, for those of you who are open-minded to think about it? Or if your perspective is that you're not interested in any religion, you're atheist, you can also definitely make that argument. Thanks, Macintosh Pro. That is the video for the CTF argument. Thank you very much for highlighting that. So if you want to see the current version, is right there at that link that's on the screen right now. If you want, you can wait for the next version, which is I'll probably be working on for a few months. But please check out that version and let me know what you think. Topic number 2 suggestion. I'd like you to all consider maybe doing something where you steel man a side that you've already rejected. I think that would be an interesting argument to have on this channel. And then, I'd like to hear this from all of you. This is something we've touched on with a few guests, but what is a personal experience that you've had, a subjective experience that you've had that has changed your theological outlook? And it can be either towards atheism or towards a specific theology. I talked about this with Kyle, who's on the channel recently, so I'd love to chat about that as well. So give me an example of an experience that's changed you. That's the topic for today. Fermi paradox. We haven't talked about this yet on the channel. The idea of the Fermi paradox is that the universe is very old, and if there is the potential for intelligent life to colonize the galaxy, then it should have happened by now, and we should be able to see the footprints of other technological civilizations, and we don't see that. So what is the holdup? Why is the universe quiet? That's the topic, the Fermi paradox. It's something really interesting. I haven't done a dedicated video about it, but I'm often interested in it, and so I'd love to chat with you about that. I know Chase Teaches Physics is a channel that's contributed to some of these chats, so maybe if he's on, we'll chat about this a little bit. And then, as always, I'd love to know what you all want to talk about next on this channel. So this is the other topic that I'll have. Give me your suggestion for topics you'd like to talk about next, and I will give you one. And I haven't posted about this yet, but I'd love to do a chat on this channel about Islam. I'd love to do a frank discussion about Islam and just talk about different aspects of Islam. So I'm going to remove these slides and just say hi to Judd Bowens. I want to say hello to Robin. Also, really good to see you. Yeah. All right. Good to see you all. All right. Well, let's bring up our first guest. And again, the link to join the conversation is pinned in this chat. So if you want to join the conversation, it should be pinned. Let me check again. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so the link is pinned in the chat, so anyone can come up and have a conversation or ask me some questions. But I want to pronounce this correctly. Endre?
Endre.
Yeah, good to see you. You've emailed me. We've had some good conversations, but I'd love to chat more with you, and I'm glad that you joined. So good to see you.
It's my audio is good.
Yeah, I can hear you great. Yeah, really great to chat with you.
If my accent should be difficult, just let me know.
No, not at all. Not at all. You're coming through great.
Yeah, it's just like a background of me. I am like a biologist, but I also study what's it called, like sort of defense, security, sort of thing. I don't know how to translate it to English.
Defense and security. That's interesting.
Yeah, so like I also do like my biology background, but I also have focus on Russian information warfare. So it's a very big two different things. So I'm not an expert in like religion or anything like that, but I have been interested in it since I was like 10-year old or something. So I have some opinions.
Well, probably it's a good chance to remind people that I'm a professor, I'm a physician, but I don't have any theological degree, I don't have any ministry, and I don't have any theological credentials. But what's on your mind, Endre?
What's in my mind is like I have just some few questions, like I'm curious about, and just easy questions to warm up. Could be a fun thing to warm up a stream.
Sure.
And then I have like my hallucination, like because I have been like when I was younger, I was like delusional. Like I sort of feel like when I read the Bible, I like sort of felt like this could have been me or something. Like at least that's how I felt. And then
that's fascinating. When you read the Bible, you thought this could have been me.
Yeah, like that. Like this is like how I could like imagine writing something down.
Oh, okay. So you feel like you could have written something like the Bible.
No, not like the Bible necessarily, but like if I like was in a different state, like if I was like from that time, or like I'm just like trying to like you think of like a naturalistic way of like how things could have been.
Interesting. Well, of course, the question that I always have that I want to make sure of is how is your mental health now? That's probably the biggest thing that I should ask.
No, it's very good now. I was like young. I've just had I don't know. I just had migraines, like constant migraines and sleep deprivation, and I don't know where it can come from, but now like sleep is everything you need in life. So when you get that, usually health gets better. But,
well, of course, if you deprive somebody of sleep, I think something like 90% of the population will start hallucinating at 48 hours of sleep deprivation.
Well, I had my case, it was like very severe. I could go like one time I went 6 days without sleeping, and most days I slept like 3-4 hours as a child. So it was like very severe. Like I don't know where the problem came from, but it's like.
Did they ever give you a formal diagnosis of why that was going on?
No, because it just when I went to high school, it sort of disappeared. Like all of my. I don't know, I don't know, why it disappeared, but it just disappeared. So it was like never like a reason to find out. But I think it's just maybe bad habits of. I had also like autism and different other like diagnoses, so it could be maybe associated with that.
That's a high degree of sleep deprivation to just come from autism. I don't know of that being a specific symptom or phenomenology of autism, but I mean, I'm glad you're okay now.
Yeah.
I don't want to probe too far into your history, but that does sound like a very, very idiosyncratic, very unusual appearance of any entity. But I hope you're doing okay. And obviously, I would recommend if anyone's out there facing delusions or hallucinations or excessive sleep deprivation, you should definitely get medical attention.
Oh, today life's good. I'm not complaining.
Okay, good. That's good to hear, certainly.
Yeah. So it's so like I'm like maybe too sometimes too good. I almost feel like.
Like I again, I don't want to delve into your history, but do you mean like you're almost manic sometimes?
No, I mean like good, like that's like I have no problem in my life. It's like things just are good like for years.
Oh, that's good. Okay. Well, yeah, let's get to like any questions that you have.
And then also my problem with Paul, that was like also another thing. Like I have a big, like I don't see like his value in Christianity. But my first question is like, when Christians use this argument, something like in the beginning the word was God or something like that, and I don't remember exactly where the phrase was, but do you know what I'm
I
talking
think you're
about?
referring to the Gospel of John. In the beginning
Yeah.
was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God.
And people use that some sort of like argument for God, but I don't
I mean,
I
and
never.
we kind of did skip over something. Did you want to ask me something about Paul? I think that Paul's work is independently very important. And I don't think that I'm outside of the literary consensus when I say that Paul's writings, particularly in Romans and Corinthians, are a theological treatise that was very advanced particularly for that time.
Yeah. So it's no, but it's like another point for like after this. It's but I just have this I had this curiosity, like, because I always heard like people about this, the word is God in John, but I never understand like I'm just interested in your perspective on like why do some Christians like give so much weight to that verse?
Well, the word is sort of, the idea of logos, which is the idea of reason or order. So in the beginning was sort of the logos or the reason or the wisdom, and that was with God, and that was God. I mean, that seems like it seems like from like prima facie intuitive reasons that would be an important statement. But you're saying, why do Christians put a lot of weight in that?
Yeah, like for me, it's just like a sentence. Like I'm just reading a sentence. Like for me, it's like just reading a sentence in like a magazine or something. It's like doesn't mean anything to me.
Sure. I mean, I don't know that I would say that should elicit a specific emotional reaction for you.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I find it to be, I find, look, I find parts of the Bible to be very literarily beautiful. If you ask me what is the most literarily beautiful book of the Bible, I'd probably say Ecclesiastes. But I think that, I think there's some stuff in some of the Peter epistles that are very good. Some of the Pauline epistles are certainly very compelling, I think. I think the Mark is written in a way that's a little more crude and simplistic, but I think some of the literary ideas that come from the literary character of Jesus inside Mark are disproportionately interesting and intellectually enriching compared to the writing style. Dr. Kurtz reminding us that the concept of logos was a Greco-Roman concept prior to the development of Christianity. That's true. So I think John is incorporating the idea of what the logos is and bringing it into Christianity.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
but yeah, I mean, I don't know that I would say look, I actually have autism too, so sometimes I don't react emotionally to things that move other people emotionally. So sometimes I'll just have a different set of emotional reactions to things.
because I read like when I read the Bible, like one other thing that like I sort of like I got like very disappointed, like because I always done like interest in the Bible from like the debating with creationists, like evolution, Big Bang, whatever it's going to be. But it was not before in university I was like interested in the Bible as like a theological thing itself. So that was when I was like fully reading the entire thing. I was like expecting like something. I can, but one thing when I read like people, what is the the book of all the poems? What is that called?
The Book of Olive Holmes?
No, the where you have all the poems, like the where you have like
Oh,
200.
like Proverbs or Psalms?
Oh yeah, Proverbs and Psalms. Some people find it like very, very beautiful and things, but I'm like I wanted to shoot myself every time when I was like needed to read through that. It's like because I don't find that like any fascinating at all. Because I'm very a literal person. Like I don't find like these things beautiful as like maybe many other people find beautiful.
Well, I mean, I would read it. I would start, if you're looking to appreciate the Bible as a literary work, I would start with Ecclesiastes. But
Mm.
if you're looking to appreciate it as a literary work, and you are not someone who is generally moved by things that you encounter in a literary way, then you might want to start with the commentary on Psalms, right? So, like, in other words, and I can't recommend one specifically. If any Christians want to chime in, or anyone can chime in about, a book that contextualizes the literary value of the Bible, you can put that in the chat, and I'll highlight that to Andre. But I don't, I mean, like, for instance, my favorite psalm is Psalm 88, and I really like that psalm. But if you read the psalm, it's kind of interesting because my favorite thing about it is sort of metatextual, right? By that I mean this: if you read the psalm in and of itself, it's an interesting work, but it really is just a set of strong complaints to God, right? But then you wonder, why is that in the Bible if it's an indictment of God? And I think the lesson there is really beautiful, and that lesson is you can rage against God, you can express anger to God, you can express complaints to God, but as long as you're bringing those issues to God, you're still having a conversation with God, which means you're having a conversation in the right direction. So I think it's sort of a metatextual idea that's interesting. So I personally think the Psalms are very interesting. I mean, and here's just kind of another argument why the Psalms are literarily interesting. A lot of our common turns of phrase that we have now come from the Psalms. I think, for instance, Psalm 27, or it may be Proverbs 27, but Psalm 27, I think, is the one that says, steel sharpens steel. Now, it actually says iron sharpens iron because steel would be anachronistic to be in the Bible. But anyways, I mean, things like that, or like the quick and the dead, I think that's from one of the letters of Peter. So there are many turns of phrase that have become resonant in our language that we're still using. So I don't, I think the Bible is a literarily important work, but I'm not as moved by written word as other people are often. So
Yeah, it's also my from where I grew up. It's like the reason for why I was interested in religion and stand, because I grew up like in my class we were like 5 people. It was like very deep, like countryside, and then like when I was 10, we needed to move to another school. Like the entire place was like 1,000 people. And but then when I needed to move to the school when it was like 5th grade, because then you like went to the main school. Then we were like sort of forced to go. We have like this one church, and you have this like Christmas tradition. You go to the church, do like Christmas traditions there. But I hated that, and that was like how I got interested in like in religion from that point.
well, Chris Oakey Ministry put in a good comment. And one other thing that I would advise you is the whole point of my CTF argument is, what would an objective, rational, theistic gambler do confronted with different, and the reason why I actually like that standard more than, is this a beautiful work? And the reason why is, you can talk to somebody who's Muslim and they'll say that the Quran is like, a really beautiful work, and they'll say that's why they believe in it. And that to them is a potent logical argument. But again, that's a subjective delineation at its heart, right? You can talk to somebody who's Mormon about the Book of Mormon, and they'll say, this is a beautiful book. There's no way a human could have written this. And, I understand the appeal of that argumentation, but to me, it becomes very subjective, right? Anyone is going to like their version of the literature more. So I wouldn't rely on that as a criteria,
it
or
was
an
more like a joke.
anti-criterion.
It was more of like a joke about the Psalms and things. It wasn't like part of my argument. It's just like,
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So it's but it's like more.
I don't pick up on jokes, so feel free to be like,
yeah.
I'm actually joking, and I'll
yeah.
like,
Yeah. I could be. I'm very direct in my jokes also, so it's it can be problematic.
Well, we're right at 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Let's try and do a few more minutes, and then I'll go down the line, because we got Max, Robin, and Kyle waiting. So
Well, so I work with Russian information warfare, and like when I look at, for example, the CTF argument, I like see the problem. For example, you have the witness like density, you have the creedal and quadrilogical speeds, and you have attestation lags. But for example, like for me, like I put like very little value in like this kind of arguments, because I see like how into the information space, how we have multiple people and how easy it can spread. Sometimes it can take like a day, like for like under a day, for something to be like like a truth in society, and you have like I have a long criticism of the realpolitik of like the international relations, where like they like manufactured like a new reality of understanding the world, because they got like wrong kind of like they predicted wrong things, so they rewrite history, and people today believe all of these things with like NATO is the reason for why Russia invaded Ukraine and blah 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 blah. Put your list, and all of them are wrong, but people are like holding this as a truth. So like I come from this perspective also when I'm like reading the Bible, and also reading through this like sense of understanding, like my like modern understanding. So it's
Yeah, sure. I mean, so Professor James Fodor is an atheist, and he's written sort of a takedown on the resurrection, and it's called the RHBS model.
Yeah.
And he relies a lot on, this is how false beliefs emerge. But the problem is that's actually the fallacy of hasty generalization, right? Now, one of the keys of the CTF argument is that I contextualize everything by the era that the theological phenomenon arose in, right? That's an important thing to do. If we're missing that contextualization, then we run the risk of applying a current anachronistic standard to a discourse that was happening when that current standard was not in place. Now, hopefully that makes a little bit of sense to you, but I'll explain it just
like you're comparing with other religions.
Yeah, exactly. So you can't just say that false beliefs emerge and therefore Christianity was merely a false belief. What you must do is you must look at the phenomenology that instantiates a false belief, and then explain how that phenomenology is specifically applicable to Christianity. You see what I'm saying? Right? So I can say, 5 women have dumped me, right? And therefore women just don't find me attractive. But that's not enough, right? You have to find a causation. If you say, well, wait a second, what are you saying to these 5 women? And I say, well, I'm being flagrantly racist on the first date. Then your point is probably going to be like, maybe it's not that you are unattractive. Maybe it's that, you have ideas that need to be changed, right? So the key thing that you have to say is not, is it possible that Christianity is a false belief? That's not enough. What you have to say is, what are the reasons why people develop false beliefs? And how does Christianity instantiate that phenomenology? But when you do that, you have to make sure that you're not using an anachronistic standard.
I have it's too much to go through right now about like my how I'm like using my modern analysis to the past, but it's not like fitting in the CTF argument either. Like I should just but I can go through the one last point also about the
Sure. I think we got time for one more quick one.
Yeah. It's my the hallucination thing. For example, when like I had one hallucination where I was sitting in a room with a friend, and we were playing like a zombie game, and then like suddenly it was like it was dark outside, and suddenly the window was just like red, like with hands, like bloody hands on the window. And it's just a forest out there, and like I got shocked and he got shocked, like I'm pretty sure he didn't see the same thing as me, but he got scared. I had not talked to him about this in the aftermath because we are like not friends anymore. Like, of course, it's because we were like young, we have different paths in life. And then I have this is like a real event, and I'm pretty sure it was not. This is like my problem. Sometimes I'm like, was this a dream or did this happen in real life? And I just had delusional. It's like very hard to know where do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, but here's the thing. What you're referring to is more of a selective attention issue, right? You had a sensation, right? You drew somebody else's attention to something and you were freaked out, and so they became a little bit freaked out. Now, selective attention that's actually been likened to, the resurrection witnessing, that maybe there was some selective attention that's actually been established in haunted houses and things like that, where one person will hear a noise and freak out, and then the other people freak out when they hear the same noise, right? And that gives the sense that something spooky is happening.
Yeah.
But again, that doesn't really carry any theological information, first of all. And second of all, the issue is, when you tell me that this happened, like my immediate inclination is to dismiss you, right? To just say, well, that was a hallucination. it was probably what's called a hypnagogic hallucination, like because you were sleep deprived, you had a hallucination going to sleep. There's actually a name for that. It's called a hypnagogic hallucination. And I would say, well, no further analysis is needed on that point. So the question that you have to ask yourself is, would a hallucination about a reappearance of Jesus, would that have been enough to convince somebody else to believe in the same thing that happened, and carrying a theological message? Like I've heard hallucinations from dozens, maybe even hundreds of people. Right? People all often say, "I had this experience; it was hallucination." Most of the time, if they're just delusional, then they just had a momentary impairment in their reality testing. If they have an organic psychosis, then that hallucination becomes a little hard to disambiguate from the rest of their conscious waking experiences. You see what I'm saying? But the point is, it doesn't draw anyone else into their reality. In other words, when somebody tells me I'm having auditory hallucinations, that there are people around talking to me, my initial reaction is, you're having hallucinations. You probably have schizophrenia. My reaction is not, there must have been people around you talking, right? I'm initially very dismissive about that. So that's why I think the hallucination, that's one of the reasons. Now I've talked a lot about the problem with hallucinations, and that's in my argument against Apologia's minimal witnesses model, but I might do some more content on that. We should really move on. But any other questions, Andre? It's really good to chat with you. We've been chatting over email for a while, and I hope we chat some more over email.
Yeah.
And I especially hope that you'll send me an email telling me what additional criteria I should add to the CTF argument.
Maybe focus also on animalistic religion also. Like very early religions, like if you can do that if possible.
That's a good idea, actually. Yeah. I've expanded the number of religions that I include to in the CTF argument. I'm up to 18 religions, but I think putting
So it could be just like, then you get like this very like established sort of religion, and then you get like, of course it's hard to find about animalistic religions and everything, because very little is written about it, because
let me move on to Max next, but Andre, let's keep chatting over email, and I'm really glad that you joined me. It's been a while, so I really, before I move on to the next person, I want to say, truth or religious nonsense. If you want to hop up briefly, I can try to squeeze you in. But just so everyone knows, this is a really great channel, Truth or Religious Nonsense, and I'll be on their channel this Saturday. I think the time is 10 a.m. Central Time. So keep your eyes open for that, and I'll definitely try and post about that. But good to see you, Andre. I'll go ahead and bring up the next person if you're okay with that.
Yeah.
Okay. I hope we chat again. It's nice to chat with you.
Yes. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Hey, Max. Really good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you, Tavo. Do you hear any like fan in the background or anything from me?
No, I think I'm okay. Yeah.
Okay. I can't. It's just it's a little warm today, but I don't think anyone can hear the fan. All right. So you could have some more CTF talk.
Yeah, I'm really trying to expand the criteria. I'm expanding the literature search that you and I talked about previously, which I never presented on this channel, and I really didn't mean to. But what Max encouraged me to do is look up. The CTF relies a lot on Anglophone literature. So what I tried to do is incorporate. I tried to do some literature searches in other languages. It turns out that's really hard to do. For instance, if you look in Arabic language academic literature for stuff on Muhammad, it's almost all very apologetical, very theological. In other words, if you look at Anglophone literature, you can say, I'm going to look at secular academic literature, or I'm going to look at theological literature, and those are two different categories. The same separate categorization doesn't necessarily exist in other linguistic traditions. But we did look up Japanese literature, and we found that Jesus was referenced second most in Japanese literature, which leaned more heavily towards Buddhism. But that was kind of an interesting finding too. But anyways, that's going to go in the argument. Yeah.
So I think you were talking to Dr. Kurt the other day, and he was like bringing up Mormonism, and it's kind of like an interesting point in the CTF, because you have like very low credibility for Mormonism, but it kind of scored high on some of these criteria.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so does that seem so I think you said like there were other reasons outside the CTF that you think it's low credibility, or
Yeah, well, so here was the issue, and you can help me work this out because so so what CTF does is it says these events are at the origin of this religion. So this religion started because of these events. And then I look at those events and I try and historiographically rate how much verisimilitude those events have, right?
Mhm.
Now, you can talk about certain things like in Mormonism it's a little harder because if the theological events at the beginning of Mormonism are the tablet, the appearance of the tablets, and the appearance of the angel, then the lag time becomes very, very short, right?
Yeah.
If it's the Book of Mormon and all the theological stuff in the Book of Mormon that happened in the ancient Americas, then the lag time becomes, millennia. So it kind of depends on how you score that. And I don't know of a principled way to do that. Like, should I just kind of think of Mormonism as a Shintoism where the lag time is very long, or should I think of it as, like Islam, where there is a theological revelation and that revelation is really the inciting event of the religion? So it kind of depends on, but here there's another problem with CTF, right? Which is that if there's specific evidence against the claim, then I don't really get into that very much, right? My problem with Mormonism is, so, CTF isn't perfect. I think it moves the needle towards objective discourse, and I think that's good. But because that's just underrepresented. But I could see somebody saying, well, CTF doesn't work very well because it scores LDS very high, and you yourself don't believe in LDS. And I would say, yeah, my criteria for not believing in LDS are all the anachronistic statements, a lot of the falsifications. We don't really have falsifications in other religions, In other words, I can't even think of like an instance where, like here's what you could imagine: that if Muhammad wrote the Quran, right, and then somebody took away the Quran from him, took away what he wrote, and said, now rewrite it, and then if it's the same thing, then we're gonna know that you're speaking the truth, right? That would have been a very compelling event, right? So something like that did happen in Mormonism, right? And what happened in Mormonism was, somebody took like 116 pages of the Book of Mormon, right? And then they said, okay, if Joseph Smith, if you're just translating this, then retranslate this, and we'll see if it's going to be the same. And he retranslated it, and it turned out a lot different. And his reconciliation of that was, well, I was translating a different book because God didn't give us the same source, because God's very angry, and the Book of Mormon actually. So there's this kind of workaround, but there's this book called The Words of Mormon, and that's what Joseph Smith wrote to sort of interpolate those 116 lost pages. But that's a very clear falsification. Now, can I operationalize a falsification for other religions? I don't. Maybe, but I don't think there are opportunities like that.
I mean, people would say failed prophecy, but you would just say it's open to interpretation.
Well, here's my issue on failed prophecy. We have the Christians all say that Jesus fulfilled prophecy, right? Atheists and Jews would all say Jesus did not fulfill prophecy, right? So either it's clear and one half of the population is in denial or just wrong, which doesn't seem very likely, or it's just not a very good criteria. Now, here's what also supports that it's not a very good criteria. There have been at least 3 Jewish figures that I know of who were extolled as messianic figures by people who are very well-respected, well-regarded rabbinical authorities, right? So if the criteria of prophecy fulfillment worked well, by my reading, those individuals should have all been excluded for the same reason that the Jews will say that Jesus didn't fulfill any prophecies. Now, the other problem is that we don't have a consistent bar for prophetic fulfillment throughout history. In other words, after the year 130 CE, when there were a lot of very negative consequences to the Jews for the uprising of Simon Bar Kokhba and the whole revolution and the Jewish war, then the Jews became very much more austere, much more rigid, much more closed-minded and narrow in how they applied the criteria for prophetic fulfillment, right? But Rabbi Akiva was the greatest rabbi of their time, and he felt that Simon Bar Kokhba was the Messiah. The greatest among the greatest rabbis of our time are probably the Chabad Lubavitch, right? Now, those rabbis thought that Menachem Schneerson was the Messiah and fulfilled prophecy. Now, I don't think he did, but he clearly didn't. If you don't believe Jesus fulfilled prophecy, you definitely can't believe that Menachem Schneerson fulfilled prophecy. So, to me, it doesn't work well as an exclusion criteria, and it doesn't work well as an inclusion criteria either. So, I mean, that would be a good.
They could all be wrong, right?
They could all be wrong, yeah. But again, my lens of the CTF argument tends to incline me to say that there was prophetic fulfillment for Jesus. And the reason why is because I don't think that there are any other candidates in history who come as close to Jesus to fulfilling the prophecies that are delineated. That's my own personal, but I don't talk about that on the channel because I know that that opens up a can of worms, and then people are going to say, well, subjectively, I don't think that's true. And so I end up just sort of not talking about it that much.
So could you look for anachronistic elements? I'm not going to say for sure there are any, but could you do a look to see if there seem like
anachronisms? Yeah,
anachronisms.
That's a great criteria, and I've tried to do that. It turns out to be very hard to operationalize, and the reason why is the Bible makes way more claims than almost any other book. Okay. So people and locations, and Lawrence McKidiak is the scholar who did the most work on verifying the people and locations in the Bible. And it's really interesting work. But what he concluded is that there are more claims in the Bible, and that it does seem, if you kind of like, and the CTF argument speaks to this as well. Now, here's the problem: is if you show me something in the Bible that's anachronistic, right, and I say, well, here's the apologetical resolution of it, which do I buy? Do I buy that there's an anachronism, or do I buy that there's an apologetical resolution? To me, the Book of Mormon has so many huge anachronisms that are so obvious and so glaring, and you have to do so many backflips to weasel your way out of those anachronisms that it becomes very easily an indictment. But I don't know that there's a really good even standard for that, right? Like, do I say, well, gross anachronisms count, and if it's a subtle anachronism, it doesn't count as much? I don't know what to do. It's a good criteria, though, and I mean, I might incorporate it into CTF. I have been trying to operationalize it. It seems difficult to do that.
It just seems like usually falsification is stronger, like, mechanism than confirmation in terms of proving what is true and what isn't.
True. That's a true statement. Yeah, and
it's just
the thing that confounds me a little bit is if I say to a Christian, "Is this an anachronism?" they'll say no. If I say to an atheist, "Is this an anachronism?" they'll say yes. Now, I haven't really focused on anachronisms in the Bible all that much because I'm trying to be pretty systematic and go through all the works of religion and apply the criteria uniformly. It just, to me, the LDS anachronisms jump out as so striking, so severe, they pop up so quickly. Oh, somebody's saying, can you use simple words so we as not native speaker? Yeah, I apologize. So an anachronism means that, like, the Book of Mormon talks about coinage, right? Coins, right? It's numismatics or whatever. So now coins did not exist in the ancient Americas in the time that the Book of Mormon cites. So the argument is that is a clear error. It's an anachronism. It's taking it means that, the event didn't happen the way the Book of Mormon says that they did. Good question. Any other questions, Max?
I don't know. I mean, I'm just trying to think, because so I guess one thing is that if Mormonism is, like, obviously fake, then it kind of seems like the criteria that give it points are not very reliable.
Yeah, I mean, that's a valid criticism of the CTF. If it worked better, it should have worked better against Mormonism. Now, here's where I would push back, and it's a very specific place. One of the two theological events of Mormonism is the tablets. Now, I actually believe those tablets appeared, right? So then it becomes, the question becomes, is that a theological event, right? So if you say the tablets, I mean, look, there's no, it's hard to have an evaluative criteria that works well across each and every single religion, okay? But to me, the evaluative criteria of CTF get pretty close to the way historians would treat things. Now, I actually do think that there were tablets. There's nothing, but then it becomes, is that a theologically significant event? It kind of becomes like let's say let's say you believe that Muhammad split the moon, right? I could see somebody believing that there was some sort of climatological like cloud formation over the moon that made the moon look like it was split in two, right? And I could say, well, that would have been a splitting of the moon, and that doesn't really carry any theological impact. It's like, Julius Caesar, right? When people said that he went to heaven, it was because they saw a comet in the sky. So, on day 3 says we're really close to 1,000 subs. That is true. We are like 13 or something or 17 away from 1,000 subs. So we might cross over 1,000 subscribers tonight. That would be really great. He says only 13 more. That's great. Good point though, Max. I mean, I'll try to, I'll try to think some more about that.
Okay. So I guess the thing is like to try and think of like what are the criteria.
One more thought on Mormon though before we leave that thing. Almost every theology does pretty well in some criteria and does pretty poorly in other criteria, and LDS is an example of that. In other words, LDS performs well in some criteria and LDS performs really poorly in other criteria, right? So I think that's the point of CTF is, are there any other theologies that perform well across the board? And I think the answer is, from what I've seen in CTF, the answer is no, right? There's some things that score well in some criteria and do poorly in other criteria, and that's about pretty much every other religion.
Okay, so I was thinking about so the purpose of these criteria, like they're not just arbitrary. There's like a logical reasoning for them. Like if we want to talk about how early the attestation is, it's like this wasn't a story people made up centuries later. It was starting early after the events. And I can understand the logic behind that. But once you get to a certain number of attestations, it's like we've confirmed that they believed it. And I don't really care if there's a dozen people or whatever. Once we get over the threshold of establishing the fact, it no longer matters to me how many extra people we find that support it. So I don't think witness density really means much, in my opinion.
I'm probably going to revise the witness density criteria for what it's worth, but I think it makes a big difference, right? Like if you have, like for instance, in Islam, there's the witness density is very low, and all of the witnessing comes from the caliph themselves or the caliphate, right? So there's a central hierarchy that gives the transmission of information. So to me, it's not really, maybe it's less about the witness density and it's more about the pluralism or the plurality of voices that endorse a claim.
I mean, I could see that sort of. I guess you would have to say, are we distinguishing, like how we would distinguish the plurality and various things about. But I just think the sheer numbers, once it gets to a certain point, it no longer matters if additional people are talking about it, in my opinion. But I can kind of see the plurality that you're getting at.
To me, it makes a difference. By the way, on day 3 says join the debate review. I'm happy to do that. But can you do me a favor and put in the time and the place and the link? Because you're an admin, so feel free to advertise your. It was a good debate. I would love to be part of the review. So if you don't already have it, like put it in the chat and I'll highlight it. Let's do one more question, Max, and then we have like 3 other people. So.
Oh yeah. My last question is, are you responsible for a conspiracy to replace humans with owls?
Am I responsible for the conspiracy?
Or are you just the patsy? Which is it?
I mean, I think sometimes humans are loud. It'd be quieter if there were owls.
I think owls are loud too. They go hoo hoo.
That's true.
Okay, well, I guess you can have a good night and talk to some other people, Tavo.
Well, good to see you, Max. I mean, I hope
Yeah.
we keep, you're asking really thoughtful questions, and like a lot of the conversations that we've had, I think we'll keep talking about this stuff, and I'll really try and operationalize the anachronism criteria a little better.
Yeah. Okay. Have a good night.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Robin, really lovely to see you. Welcome. You're
sorry, I was muted. I was muted.
No,
I think that Kurt is probably behind that conspiracy. You are the patsy of that. Yeah.
I think, is this a real thing that you all are talking about?
I don't know.
Is there something that's going on in the atheist chats that I'm not,
No,
Dr. Kurt does say, sign me up for that conspiracy.
Yeah.
I appreciate the vote.
Yeah. He's
welcome to the parliament, Dr. Kurt.
Yeah. He definitely is on board for that one anyway, even if he didn't start it. Hey, Adrian. Okay, my question is, I've been noticing William Lane Craig put out a recent video on the Trinity.
I haven't seen it yet, but I heard about it, yeah.
Yes, and in his video, he, which I know you're not like a dedicated Christian, but so I would be interested in what your views on the Trinity are when we get when you get to explaining it, talking about this. But from my perspective, when I watched it and I saw other people comment it too, he seems to actually take a heretical position from the Trinitarian view.
Oh, really quick. One comment to Kaushik Roy. You feel free to say whatever you'd like. I don't think anyone would ban you for sounding too Muslim in this chat. Feel free to you can say anything you want, Kaushik Roy. We try to be pretty open. And just a reminder to the mods, don't ban people just because they're saying pro-Muslim stuff. Yeah. But go ahead, Robin, sorry.
Professing Christian. I don't know what word I said, but that's what I should have said anyway. So anyway, it seems that he takes a heretical view by breaking down the Trinity into parts. So I was kind of wondering what your position on the Trinity was, and if you haven't seen the video, I guess it's kind of not unfair to ask you to comment on it.
No, that's okay. I know he's I know he kind of runs afoul of divine simplicity, and if that's what he says in his video, then that's not really new.
But he has this little drawing of the Trinity, and it has God in the center, and then it has all these things, and it has the Son, the Father, and the Holy Spirit, and all of them link in and say, is God. But then in between, I've seen
that diagram, yeah.
Yeah, in between them it says is not. And he breaks down the word is as having two different meanings. One of them is just identity meaning, and the other one I can't remember the word he uses. But anyway, so he uses Cerberus as a metaphor favorably.
Yeah, I think I saw or heard something about that.
Pretty good. But anyway, that's what I was wondering. I thought maybe you'd watched it already. I was going to see. I wondered what your views on the Trinity were, and I wanted to say they were talking about the falsification for religion. Wago in the chat. The Quran does say that if there's anything false in the book, that the book is false. But
yeah, that's true.
Getting them to accept that you found a error is the hard part. So exactly,
exactly, yeah.
Okay.
So in regards to Trinitarianism, I tend to be sort of a monarchical Trinitarian. I think that's traditional monarchical Trinitarianism is the simplest explanation and leaves the fewest holes and the fewest unanswered questions. But I don't feel super strongly, and I don't get into it on this channel just because I kind of feel let's say you're you have some sort of modalist view on the Trinity, right? Mm-hmm. Do I think you're going to go to heck for that? Not that I believe in heck as eternal conscious torment anyways, but my point is I don't think it's really, and to me I've been sort of theologically inclined for maybe a couple of years, so I feel that's a very advanced question, and I just don't want to get super into in other words, the Trinity is sort of I'm doing my addition and subtraction, right? So The Trinity is like
Yeah.
bringing me a book on calculus and saying, figure this out. You know, I'm like,
Yes.
hey, I'm working my way through the addition and subtraction. Here's what I want to underscore is, to me, arguments against the Trinity are not the same as arguments against Christianity. So to me, if you say there's no way that the Trinity is a logical possibility, I'm happy to have those conversations. I don't really get into them that much on this channel, but I'm happy to have those conversations. But to me, it's not really a knock against Christianity, because the view isn't intrinsic to Christianity. I know so many Christians who would say, well, I'm not really a Trinitarian, that, you know, that I know so many Christians who say that it doesn't really, you know, it's not really intrinsic to Christianity to accept monarchical Trinitarianism in the way that
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree that like there's that kind of doctrine could be completely wrong, and God, like the Christian God, could still exist. Like that, I think that it's pretty, you know, we pretty well know that was some doctrine that was a man-made doctrine. Like the Trinity is not in the Bible, that, you know, that language.
Yeah.
It's just an interpretation.
Here's what the Muslim retort often is: if you can't explain it to a 5-year-old, you don't know what you're talking about. I disagree with that. I think some theology is complicated, just like the universe is complicated. And I can't explain calculus to a 5-year-old. You give me, like, you know, you could give me like hours and hours. I'm not going to be able to explain calculus to them. Does that mean the calculus is false? I can't explain cosmology to a 5-year-old, right? And I can accept some things about cosmology without being able to explain them. So to me, that standard of like, if you can't explain it to a 5-year-old, then it's not true. I bristle against that. I think some issues are challenging, and you know, the big Nick people. I think people said, like, make sure you watch your language. We do try and like limit the profanity here, but we've talked before, and here's the other: if you can't explain calculus to a 5-year-old, it means you don't know calculus.
That's
not correct. Have you ever talked to a 5-year-old? They don't. I mean, I can explain some basic stuff to a 5-year-old, but I can't keep their attention.
I mean, like there are some concepts that you need prior education to understand. You know, like exactly. Quantum physics. You can't explain quantum physics to a 5-year-old you can't even explain quantum physics to an adult who has not taken other physics classes.
Yeah,
so, that's.
I just think it's not
a very simplistic way of putting things that map onto reality. But okay, but I wasn't going to keep you very long. I was just interested.
No, it's nice to see you, Rob. But you always have like really good questions for me. You've got a couple more minutes. Anything else you want to ask me? We've got Kyle, Apollos, BBN, and Gloria Sean next after you. But do you want to ask?
I'm just happy I beat BBN in here today.
Well, and Robin, I would love to do whatever you want on your channel. Like, if you want me to come on your channel, like I'm gonna go on what's that channel? Skeptic Philosophy. I'm gonna be on
Robert's
channel. I'm gonna be on Robert's channel, and it's gonna be like, ask me your hardest questions about Christianity.
Oh, great! That's great.
Yeah. So if you wanted to do something like that on your channel, I would love that. If you wanted to just do like a talking with Tavo video on my channel, I'd love that too. A lot of our videos are not very, you know, it can be sort of questioning, or it can be disagreeing, or it can be just like, let's get to know each other, because I think that's an important part of the discussion that gets lost, is just, you know, sort of acknowledging each other's humanity and having good conversations.
Yes, and yes, I'm from Kentucky, y'all. That's not really the South, actually, but it is a Southern culture. So yes, but I sound like a bale of hay most times. What I think.
No, you sound very, very, and Robin, it's nice to see you, because you are so beloved by not only Christians, but a lot of atheists and a lot of people on both sides of the aisle. So I'm always happy anytime you want to come up, and you've sort of hinted that you have some really hard questions for me. So I hope you'll hold my feet to the fire, and we'll have a chance to go through all those questions.
Yeah, I think some of those would probably be better off when we have like more time, one-on-one or something.
Yeah.
But, I am having hey Rex, I am having a 500 subs. I finally got 500 subs, so I'm having a show Friday night.
Congratulations, that's wonderful.
On that. Yeah.
And by the way, Rex is the person who's shouting out, and we did this earlier in the
Yes.
chat, but he's going to be on this channel on Wednesday, and we're going to talk about the triage argument. So we're excited about that as well.
Yeah, I really like Rex.
And Big Nick, like, why don't you come up and I'm not like, you're welcome to come up, and I'd love to have a conversation with you. So feel free to chat with me. We'll get through this stuff. All right,
Big Nick, you won't. I'm gonna just tell you, past experience, you won't get much value out of Big Nick.
Oh, does somebody want to put Golden Arm? You know Golden Arm, right? Do you not know?
No Golden Arm, yes.
Well, he's saying, what's Robin's channel?
I don't know. I don't know why you don't know that, but
somebody put Robin's channel in the chat, and I'll highlight it. This is on Day 3's channel. So really great channel as well. But yeah, if you put Robin's channel in the chat, I'll make sure I highlight it during this conversation. Well, yeah, but anyways, nice to chat with you, Robin. We'll chat anytime.
Yes. See you later.
Yeah. Okay, see you soon. Hey, Kyle, good to see you. Thanks for hopping on.
Hey,
Oh, no. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to remove you. Sorry about that.
Okay. I was like, what's going on? Yeah, so I know you mentioned UFOs in earlier, because I don't know if you want to talk about the CTF argument or if you want to talk about aliens. I actually do a lot of research on aliens as well, or UFOs, or the whole topic. But it's up to you.
Did I mention UFOs?
I think you did. I can't remember, or someone did.
Here, this is Robin's channel, by the way. I'm putting it in the chat right now, just so we have it. And
maybe I got confused with somebody else.
We talked about the Fermi paradox.
Oh yeah, that was the reason why. Okay, so it wasn't necessarily about UFOs, but it was about.
What's your research on aliens?
So I have a very. I used to be very skeptical of UFOs, and well, I don't necessarily. So let me clarify. So, my own personal views are a little bit nuanced. So I don't necessarily hold to the extraterrestrial hypothesis. I lean more towards an ultra-terrestrial hypothesis if they're real, just because they seem to be not from this realm at all, if they exist, right? And that's just given a lot of what these UFO reports say, regardless of whether they're real or not, although I do think there's a handful that are probably plausibly real. And there's a lot of data, there's a lot of eyewitness, like even today, like military witnesses that have I just there's too much data for me to like just claim like it's all false, right? And of course there are some videos that are much, I guess you could say, like they've been analyzed, and I personally, my again, like I said, like even though I'm very skeptical, and I used to be super skeptical, I think the evidence overturns like any low prior that you set on it. That's my personal opinion. Feel free to disagree, but
I mean, I think I personally believe that there's life in the universe outside of Earth.
Yeah.
But I don't know that I think that there's intelligent life in the universe. And I think that the ability to traverse the spatial distances to get from the Earth to another planet are so huge that that I don't know that we'll ever go to another planet. And I really doubt that anyone from any other planet has come here. And moreover, when I look at these videos, it's like a super fuzzy video with like a little tic tac on the screen. I don't find that very compelling. And, you know, I've not seen anything that I think is super compelling. Like everything that I see is like, yeah.
Well, we're looking at different things then, because
there's a fuzzy thing. And here's the other side of it. If you have the capacity to travel across the galaxy to Earth, you'd have to at least come across the galaxy. Like you'd have to be far enough away that we wouldn't have seen your planet yet. So if you have that capacity, why would you make yourself visible? Like we're actually getting pretty close to invisibility, right? So why would you, you know, why if if invisibility is more achievable than intergalactic travel, then why would an alien come here and make themselves known to us, right? Why would they come here and make themselves known and then not make contact? Why would they come here and make themselves known with a bunch of different morphologies and a bunch of different appearances with a bunch of different ships, none of which seem like they're very individually very, similar to the other? And I guess I don't find the evidence to be very. I've not seen a video that really holds up or really moves the needle all that much for me.
Interesting. Have you looked into like Robert Hastings' book on eyewitness, like direct accounts?
No, I don't think I've read his book. I think I've heard him talk before, but
yeah,
again, there's nothing. No one's ever put evidence in front of me that has made me think, oh, that is definitely an extraterrestrial thing.
Well, I don't, like I said, I don't buy into extraterrestrial. I hold to an ultra-terrestrial, but that's besides the point. Which is,
oh yeah, okay, yeah.
I mean, there is a little bit of a difference there, and I agree that they're certainly not from another galaxy or anything like that. So
I haven't seen a lot of videos on that on your channel. Is there?
No, because I don't talk about there are certain topics that I don't talk about because it's kind of spooky. Although with this new UFO stuff coming out, I might make a video on it at some point. At some point, like I don't know, because like I have to really like if I were to make a video on it, it would be like actually like it would be a strong case. It wouldn't just be like, a few videos here or there. Like it would be like an actual Bayesian analysis.
Well, I would watch it. That's your channel, right? YouTube.com/@SomeCriticIdealism. Okay, so people check out Kyle's channel. It's really wonderful. I would highly recommend checking it out. We had a great conversation, so check that out as well.
But yeah, I think, I mean, out of all the paranormal phenomena, UFOs are like one of those things that are like way up there in terms of the data we have. But yeah, I personally, like I said, this is just my opinion, so people can disagree with me, and but
here's what really doesn't make sense to me about it. Number one, it's the idea that invisibility and evading our detection should be very easy for an entity that can travel across a galaxy. Number two, I definitely don't believe anything that any of the literature that says that we've had any interactions with these aliens because their ship crashed. To me, you're not going to fly across the galaxy and then get a flat tire when you get to our atmosphere.
I agree with that. Yeah. So again, those are only objections to.
I agree with what Butterstuff is saying. Yeah. I think that there's. I wouldn't be surprised if there's microbial life on Europa or Enceladus. I think those are the best candidates. We know that there's surface liquid on Titan, right? So I wouldn't be shocked if there was some sort of simple life form, like some sort of like little diatom or a little microorganism. But yeah, I mean, an interesting thing to talk about. Do you anything theological you want to ask about?
Well, I mean, we could. I don't know if you want to ever discuss. We don't have to talk about it here because you probably have other guests that want to come on. But we should talk about the CTF at some point because
I'd love that. Yeah,
there are some objections that I have that I don't know how you would respond to them or. If you,
well, try me. I'm open. Let's do a couple of them. Let's do about 10 more minutes on CTF, and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
We've got Apollo, BBN, and Gloria Sean after that.
So the first objection is like, why accept the criteria? So I guess this is like my main objection, because of course there are other objections I can raise. But if I were to raise one big objection, it would basically be that the criteria seem to be like gerrymandered to assume that the start of a religion and like its original text and the events that happen determines whether a religion is true or not. And I'm very skeptical of that because what if you have a tradition where you could actually do certain practices and then you can continuously verify through those practices that you get certain experiences and you get certain like there's some track in the progress that you're making in doing the practice. And then of course there might be some miracles along the way. So I'm curious as to if there was a tradition like that, which by the way there is, but let's say there was a tradition like that, how would your argument respond to that? Because there's no like, notice like the scenario I set up is like there's no origin date of when the practice started. It's just something that the practices all we know is that they exist and that they work, right? And they produce reliable, repeatable things that you can test for yourself, and you don't have to rely upon historical testimony or anything like that. So I'm curious as how, like, if there was a tradition that had that, how would your argument be able to deal with that? Because it just seems structurally like there's no way, like it seems like your criteria would actually go against that tradition, even if we actually can have evidence for that tradition through the methods.
No, I think that'd be something worth chatting about and worth weighing. So number one, are the criteria gerrymandered? Now, I can say that they're not. And the reason I know that is because I came up with them myself. Okay. But also, if you've been following this channel for a long time, like you probably heard my earlier conversation with Max, people will come up to me and say, what about this criteria? And I'll really try and operationalize that. And with Max, like his suggestion was like, let's look at non-Anglophone literature, right? And we operationalize that, and Jesus still scored extremely well when we did that, right? So that suggests against gerrymandering, right? If I had gerrymandered them, then I would close the criteria off, right? I would welcome anyone to try to operationalize any criteria that I'm saying are not operationalizable, like the anachronism criteria. That'd be a really great one. If you can do a better job of that, I'll put it in CTF. Here's another example: is the criteria of the internal consistency. Okay, now that's another criteria that I think is a really great criteria, but it becomes really hard to operationalize it. And the reason why is because if you say that there's a tension in this religion, and an apologist says, well, I resolve that tension by doing this, then which side am I to believe? Right? When do you know that so the whole point is to do objective criteria. Now, what you're arguing for is a subjective criteria. So there's several ways that you could do that. One way you could say is, well, do people who choose this religion, does their quality of life improve? Right? That would be an interesting metric. Now, we have actually pretty good data on that point, and I could talk about that. But the problem is, though, it has to be really rigorous. Otherwise, it becomes an ad populum argument or a subjective argument. It's subjective if you're just applying it as an individual. So if I say, well, I know that Islam is true because I became a Muslim and then my life got better, right? If I make that claim, that is a valid argument for me, but it's a subjective argument on the individual level. And the whole point of CTF is to move towards objectivity. Now, let's say I say, I'm going to apply this rule to society, right? You can socialize this, and you can say, a lot of people who choose Islam, they feel that, Islam is the truth, right? Now, that's a better criteria, but still like degenerates to becoming an ad populum argument. So you see the difficulty there. Now, I think there's another way to operationalize this. You could say, here's my criteria. Does it make the people's lives better who are in the theology? Okay. Now, there's actually pretty good data on this point. Now, the data works in a few different ways. Number one, we could take the example of Christianity. We know that people who attend church regularly, their lives get better. We know that it improves their quality of life. It decreases morbidity and mortality. There's social benefits. There's psychological benefits. There's health benefits. But here's the problem. No one has ever done the study, and I don't think this data exists, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that shows that is unique to Christianity. In other words, somebody could come along and say, well, I'm Mormon, and I think people who go to an LDS church do better. And I would say, well, I don't think that data exists. If it does exist and I'm mistaken, I think it's a reasonable thing to weigh. But the data does exist to say that if you go to a religious service on a regular basis and you engage in a religious community, you will be healthier. The problem is that doesn't discriminate between religions. Now, it is true that data seems to be the most robust in Christian-oriented nations, right? But when we try to sort of tease out multifactorial analysis, it becomes really hard to do when we look at different nations. Now, I could see the data working in a different way. I could say, well, let's say Buddhism advocates meditation, right? And you say, so meditation is good. And that's an argument for Buddhism. I would say that I actually agree with that. I have many, many friends who meditate who are not Buddhists, and they think that meditation helps. As a physician, I would argue that meditation really helps. I have many, many friends who are Buddhist and Christian at the same time. They say, I'm Christian, but I believe in the mindfulness practices of Buddhism. Those people, so that's a good claim, and that's good for them, and that's something that you could operationalize. But the problem is that doesn't give you any discriminating power, right? I also know many Buddhists who are highly Christological, right? I know many Buddhists who believe, you should meditate and you should accept the truths of Buddha and the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path and all that stuff. But they believe that Jesus was a bodhisattva. Now, I think that's sort of another interesting window into claims of veneration. I don't know many people who claim specifically that the Buddha is uniquely venerated. Now, I will say this. There's a really, I mean by other religions. Now, I will say this. There is a criteria that I am pretty close to operationalize, which is called the fragility index. In other words, how much does a religion kind of amputate off their own claims to make themselves more palatable? Now, that's been called in the literature philosophical laundering, right? So, the Big Nick. There's definitely evidence that if you meditate, that it can improve your quality of life. A lot of these measures are really subjective, right? So we don't have good, like, does it decrease mortality? Probably would. I don't think that evidence exists, but there is some good evidence that meditation is helpful. I think it's not great evidence, but I think it's good enough to say that if you meditate and you feel better when you meditate, then you should meditate. That's personally my belief system. Now I don't want to be too rigorous on that point, but here's the point. What I have operationalized, which is probably going to be the next version, is the fragility index. To me, Buddhism was a foundation of historical claims, right? And then after a few centuries, after around the year 1500, Buddhism shifted very heavily, and particularly in the West, the way Zen Buddhism is practiced, the thinking really changed a lot, right? And all of a sudden, all those theological claims about the miracles at the origin of Buddhism became unimportant, right? So to me, that means that, let me explain it to you this way. If my friend Sam comes to me and he says he's made 10 claims, right? And he's got 10 more claims that he's showing to me, I think it's reasonable to say, let me look at the 10 claims that you've shown me. And like out of those claims, like 5 of them are shown to be false, right? So then if he's got another 10 claims for me, that has less verisimilitude to me than somebody without that sort of record in the past. So to me, the issue with Buddhism is more that there were definitely theological claims in Buddhism. Those claims sort of got amputated and disregarded by most of the tradition, not all the tradition. Theravada tradition, Theravada Buddhism is fairly, adherent to some of those claims. But at least from the standpoint of fragility, I would say like things like Confucianism would score very low on that criteria. Now, Islam would score very well on that criteria, right? Islamic fundamentalism has been, at least fairly robust, although that's more related to fecundity than anything else. But anyways.
Yeah, we could talk more about this later. I mean,
I'd love that, yeah.
My own, I guess, quick response to what you said is like, number one, I guess I should clarify what I meant by gerrymandering. So I didn't mean it was intentionally gerrymandered. It was more of a figure of speech, is talking about how the criteria seems to assume that the truth of a religion depends upon like exclusively about its origins. But that's not necessarily the case, because I mean, at least in Dogchen, which is what I practice, there's no like founder of Dogchen. It's more of, in fact, that's what the tradition itself claims. It's more of just doing the practices yourself and then verifying it for yourself. And I don't mean like, I'm not just talking about like meditation in terms of mindfulness. Is actually more rigorous than that. So like there's certain Togol like visions that you'll have, which I'm not going to get into because it's kind of esoteric. But I guess my point is like, if you have a tradition where you can do the practices and you can have certain experiences from the practices, like visions and stuff like that, and then also like in certain cases, like miracles, like rainbow body miracles, small body miracles that are a result of the practice, I don't know how your criteria would be able to handle those cases, because it's not making an origin claim. It's simply saying like, hey, here are practices that you can do and to achieve enlightenment, right?
Yeah, I mean, of those miracle claims in Buddhism, most of them are pretty shoddy and not well demonstrated, with the exception, the notable exception of Tumo, right, where Buddhists can increase their core temperature, right? Now that's impressive, okay, and that's an impressive claim, and it does actually work out, right? But the problem is that you can do that even if you don't believe in Buddhism, right? People, if you get trained in the breathing exercises, then you can actually heat up your core and you can withstand a colder environment, you know. So, anyways, yeah, I see what you're saying, but here's to me, there are several problems. Number one, you're just arguing for subjectivity, which isn't bad. That's not a bad thing. Subjectivity is not a bad thing, especially when it comes to theology, and you're arguing for it on a population level, maybe, but then it becomes sort of an ad populum argument. Now, let me defend subjectivity to you. If I was talking with a Mormon the other day, and they were like, I've read the Book of Mormon, and I feel in my heart that it's true. And I think anyone with an open mind who reads the Book of Mormon is going to feel that in their hearts, that's true, right? And that's sort of similar to what you're arguing for, to me. You're saying, read this book, do these practices, and you're going to feel this specific way. Now, I talked to somebody who's a former Mormon who agrees that when you're in Mormonism, it feels very good. There are feelings of elation when you're in these sort of group love settings and you're sort of getting bombarded with love. I also know people who are like more shamanistic, who are like, well, you take the mushrooms and then you have this experience. And I'm like, yeah, but it's a guided experience, and there's no reason to think that there's anything supernatural there. So that's the issue that I have. If you're like, you do these meditation practices and you feel differently,
it's not about feelings though. It's about like you get specific visions that the texts themselves describe, and it's universal too if you do the practice.
Well, I mean, but DMT is something that gives you specific visions. You're welcome to send me the literature on that. It's just the question is I know people who do psilocybin microdosing, and their whole community will have a similar set of experiences. But a lot of that is preconditioning. A lot of that is sort of guided meditation. No, I don't want to repudiate literature that I haven't read. So if you're saying this is in the scientific literature, that somebody who does this without any preconditioning, without any bias, will have this experience and they'll see this vision specifically, then it's possible that there's literature that I'm overlooking. The question is really this: is it supernatural, or are you just having this experience and you're seeing this thing because that's what you...
Well, I mean, there are Buddhists that take a more naturalistic interpretation. In fact, I think Zen Buddhism has like a very deflationary view of Buddhahood. Like it's not really like a supernatural thing. So
absolutely, 100%. But the problem is then it's not really exclusive to Buddhism, right? In other words, I know a lot of people who are Buddhist Christians. There's a guy on YouTube who has a really popular channel who's like, I'm Christian, but I'm also Buddhist.
This might be the last thing I'll say for now, but like I think the core idea of Buddhism, if there is a kind of quote unquote universal teaching, is the doctrine of emptiness, where nothing has inherent existence. To me, that, I mean, of course, you can evaluate that on philosophical grounds, but like to me, that's like the core of Buddhism. It's like more of a philosophy. I mean, maybe you could view it that way. So it's less of a religion and more of a philosophy. But I mean, I get your point that like for example, like if you define religion as the idea that you must devote yourself to a specific God, right? It must be, exclusive to that understanding. Then yeah, I mean, Buddhism wouldn't really be a religion in the strict sense.
I mean, how do you reconcile yourself with a lot of the problematic statements? So here's the thing that I would suggest you look up. In 1871, there was this thing called the Fifth Buddhist Council, where they basically took a bunch of the theological doctrines that they had and just jettisoned them from the whole theological practice. Yeah. There was also this idea of the Buddhist Catechism at the end of the 19th century, and this was actually advocated for by this guy named Henry Steele Olcott. And he practiced Buddhism, but he definitely was a big part of the philosophical laundering. And his student was, I can't remember their name, was something like Dharmapala or something. Anyways, my point is this: there has been a lot of philosophical laundering, and to me, the issues are this: there's a lot of problematic statements from the Buddha. Now, you don't encounter them in these circles that much because people are very focused on the problematic statements in Christianity. But I mean, there's like the Buddha said terrible things about women, right? He called them, I mean, he talked about if you're a sinner, then you're born in a way that is misshapen, right? And the implication of that is Buddhism holds that if you are physically malformed, your suffering is due to your own karma. That is a horrifically cruel practice, right? So I think if you're sort of doing a bait and switch over time, where you're taking all the problematic aspects of the theology and switching them out over time to make them more aligned with modern sensibilities, then of course you're going to have a leg up compared to other religions. To me, if you,
to be fair, right? To be fair to your point, to kind of define what you're saying, like there's a lot of things in Buddhism that, like, if I were to go to like a traditional Lama, like they would probably tell me things that I wouldn't agree with, like the existence of literal Buddha hells and stuff like that. Like I don't.
Yeah, the existence of hell is in Buddhism. Yeah, people don't realize
so yeah, I mean, I like if you're attacking like a more traditional Buddhism, I mean, I could probably agree with a lot of what you have to say. So
I wouldn't say attacking. I mean, I think I know a lot of Buddhists who know that there are problematic statements in Buddhism, and they say, I just don't believe in those statements. But to me, the more you're willing to jettison from your original set of claims, the more that original set of claims becomes not as compelling to me. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I guess one final thing, which is, again, in Buddhism, I think it's more about what the nature of reality is and kind of perceiving it directly. And so to me, that's like, whether that's true or not is going to determine whether Buddhism's true to a large degree. But anyways, that's all I really have to.
I hope you keep updating me on this. I think the journey that you have ahead of you is really fascinating, and I hope that we keep chatting. And I really enjoyed our conversation. And somebody's commented that I was giving you a bit of a hard time, and I definitely didn't mean to. So I hope it didn't.
No, you're good. You push back. So I mean, you push back harder on me, so maybe I'll push back harder on you and your CTF stuff. But
why don't you have me on your channel and run me through the ringer and ask me the hardest questions that you can ask, and
I will.
I'll sit there and take it. Yeah.
I'm gonna be underway soon. I'm in the Navy, so I'm probably not gonna be able to do that kind of stuff for a while, but figure it out.
Well, you may know this, but I do a lot of my private work is volunteerism for veterans. So thank you for your service, Kyle.
Welcome.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good to see you, Kyle. All right, we'll move on then. I got Apollos up next. And Apollos, good to see you.
You too,
and by the way, while we're doing this, Modern Atheism is here. Thanks, Modern Atheism, for joining. If you're interested in Modern Atheism, we'll probably have some time at the end if you want to like come up and run me through the how many gods died on the cross argument, because I saw that you made some videos on that. I haven't watched them yet. I clicked on them and I liked them, and I plan on going back to them. But anyways,
is that the one with Johnny Apologetics?
Yeah. How did you see that one?
No, but Johnny is a good friend of mine. We've been collabing. There was actually a point where he had a smaller fan base than me, and yeah, he definitely took off, and now he's at like what 2,000 subscribers or something. So
yeah,
that's
and
cool.
I started off with 987 subscribers on this stream, and I am still at 987. But so hit the sub button.
Yeah, I definitely hit it. I'll definitely give you a shout out on my channel.
I'd love that. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So
and you're getting some love from Modern Atheism too. Apparently, he knows who you are as well, and he's got a great channel. Yeah.
Yeah, me and Modern have interacted quite a bit in the past as well.
Do you think Apollos wrote the epistle to the Hebrews?
I don't know, but I don't think it was Paul. That's as far as like the edge of my knowledge will take me. I think that whenever Paul's writing his epistles, he's clearly explicit and attributes that self-attribution definitely goes a long way when it comes to just Paul's personality in terms of like how he writes. Now, it's not to say that stylometry like kind of governs authorship like totally, but by the same token, I also I'm reluctant to take that Pauline attribution to the Epistle of Hebrews, because even the church disagreed on the authorship of that certain epistle, whereas, like, say, for example, the fourfold Gospels, it was pretty well regarded that, at least amongst the church fathers who wrote them, where everything.
What about Prisca? Do you think Prisca could have written the letter to the Hebrews?
Oh yeah, Priscilla. Yeah, I've heard that theory before. Yeah, I think it's plausible. One of the things that I have shied away from, but was like a big advocate for, was like egalitarianism within the church. And right now, I consider myself agnostic on like the whole feminism and female ordination way of like governing churches, but that's particularly because I'm also associated with a lot of like debate circles that have heavily critiqued feminism's rise in recent years, and I'm not fully on board with them, but they make valid points, is what I'll say.
When you say they critique feminism, what is the basis of their critique?
Yeah, so like as far as like I'll understand, like say for example someone like Rachel Wilson, it'll be like just pointing to like a lot of sociological data showing how and I don't really have like the whole like I guess you could say like pieces of the puzzle lined up currently, which is particularly why I'm also agnostic on the whole issue. But I guess like part of it too is just like how I've seen Rachel Wilson, say for example, perform in debates. But yeah, that's definitely like more of like a side issue that I don't really focus on. I guess like what I wanted to talk about was you came up with like the CTF argument, and I guess like one of the questions I do have was have you tried to get it published in formal literature in like some sort of journal, or presented it at some sort of venue?
I probably would not publish the CTF argument ever, because but I would probably publish in, each argument there's like 13 different evaluative criteria. I think it'd be fun to publish individual criteria. I keep myself as a pseudonym, so most of my papers are in my own field, which is medicine. I've written about 50 papers. Now, the other thing that I've written about is arguments for theology, which I haven't talked about on my channel, and a reconciliation of how consciousness occurs, right? So I wrote a pretty long paper with a great AI publisher, with this guy who's written a lot about AI, about how consciousness emerges. And that was a really good paper. I haven't talked about it on this channel, but I think I probably wouldn't be able to write like this is CTF, but I could probably write about individual aspects of the CTF argument and publish them. I've thought about that because I publish a lot in my own field, but I think it'd be fun to publish at least one of the limbs. Are you interested in doing any publication on that?
Yeah, I've got like some of my interesting ideas when it comes to more principled ways of determining what counts as a miracle. The Lambertini criterion has been, say, for example, a really popular evaluative measure of like determining what counts as a miracle and what doesn't, say, for example, within the Catholic Church. And I think it's a good start, but I'm a little bit dissatisfied of what counts as quote unquote religio-historical context. And I guess that kind of segues into why I was trying to publish my own paper. But I guess like, yeah, I have a lot of thoughts here. In terms of trying to because you've gotten like a lot of good reception when it comes to CTF, but it sounds like, just based off this conversation, you haven't like tried to formally publish it in like a philosophy journal or like a historical studies journal or anything like that. It's just more so, here I gather the scholarship and I synthesize it in a unique way, and hopefully the public at broad can, I guess you could say, receive it well.
Yeah, I don't know that any historical journal would take it. I just think it's too apologetically aligned, right? So it would probably have to be published in a source that would be very sympathetic to Christianity or a very apologetically leaning journal. Good to see you over your head, Tampa. Whoops. Good to see you over your head, Tampa. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for all the advertising. And it's nice to see you on other channels too. And I'm really glad that you're here. And thanks for the whole all the support. I really do appreciate that. Yeah. All right. Getting back to CTF. So I think that the historical academic literature would be
yeah, it would definitely be strenuous to like try to like
yeah.
weigh
Now
in, like, a theological.
having said that, a lot of historians in New Testament scholarship do acknowledge that early Christians wrote more stuff. They wrote it with a greater plurality of voices, and they wrote stuff sooner. And so that is something that is commonly said in secular academic circles about the status of early Christianity. So that is something that does get said, that does get stated. And that's the video again. If people want to check it out, we've talked about it so much on this video that I'll probably put it in the description for this video as well. But yeah.
Yeah.
And Apollo, what's your YouTube channel, just so I can put it in, and then I'll have it for my own records, because I wanted to tag you in the last video.
Yeah, it was Apollos Christian Apologetics. So just Apollos with a capital A. I guess like the capitals don't matter when it comes to YouTube tagging, or it may not, or it may. I'm not sure, but it's capital A Apollos _ capital C Christian _ capital A Apologetics.
Okay. There's an underscore I'm missing. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, underscores between the words, pretty much.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Let me put it in here.
Yeah, I try, and I've also been recently convicted with, like, say, for example, Rob from Sentinel Apologetics, like, a disgruntled attitude towards the Christian debater scene, the polemic apologetic scene. So
what I don't know much about that discourse. What's going on there?
Well, I guess like the point that Rob was trying to point out was, yeah, sure, you get a lot of like these new converts, but in terms of the intellectual depth that you're really gonna pretty much streamline them to, you could easily see a lot of like these new converts. As far as I understand it, I don't know if I don't know what side I land on the issue. Like, part of it deals with like how IP, inspiring philosophy, interprets a certain scholarly view. I don't know where I land on that issue, but what Rob is saying is, as far as I understand it, that the current apologetics debate culture is a little bit polemical and doesn't really satisfy like the intellectual depth for people who have already gone through the gauntlet.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, I think most apologetics, most apologists are guilty of overstating the cases to their own audience, and I think that's problematic, especially when it comes to like. And then there's a lot of intermixing of apologetical arguments with arguments that are so non-scientific that I think they get really problematic. So probably like 60, I don't consider myself an apologist, right? I really think I'm asking questions and I'm putting out the answers as I find them. But I think a lot of my content is sort of apologetically aligned. But the point is that I think the fact that maybe 70 or 80% of apologists are arguing against evolution is one of the problems, particularly when they don't have the backing to do that. You know, it is a it is sort of a guilt by association problem, meaning that it's not a refutation. It's just a problem that the culture has. We're right at 20 minutes that we've been on together. Let me bring up BBN. And by the way, if anyone else wants to join the conversation, you're welcome to hop on. BBN is our last person that we have at the moment. So BBN's on the chat with us, and BBN and Apollos know each other. So if anyone else wants to hop up, you're welcome to. I'd be happy to.
I'm sorry. Have I talked to BBN in the last stream or something, or?
I think, yeah, you were on with BBN towards the end of the conversation. Yeah, I mean,
With Tyler, right?
Yeah, the reason why I don't consider myself an apologetic specifically is because to me, I'm not like I don't have my mind made up about a specific issue going into it. I really do the research, and then I see what happens, and then I show my results. And a lot of times I don't come out on the favor of like Christianity, like a lot of like the Shroud of Turin, right? I was agnostic on the Shroud of Turin going into it. I did some more research. I've remained agnostic, and I've said that on the channel. So
yeah, that makes sense. I guess like the central reason why I was kind of like asking you a little bit about CTF and basically the public's reception of it is I might consider like putting my developing argument that I've kind of shown you like through email chains out to the public instead of like trying to get it published into a journal, because at the end of the day it's supposed to be a novel way of tackling an objection that a lot of Christians, atheists, and those seeking a deeper understanding of like what does it mean to infer a religion off of a miracle, or so what are the implications at broad for saying this miracle X happened. So say for example like the resurrection of Jesus.
Yeah, one more plug. The Big Nick, why don't you hop up? Like, well, I'll happily have a conversation with you. I think you'll enjoy it, and I promise to be very polite. We're very polite. We have just nice, polite, pleasant discussions on this channel. We don't like yell at each other. So if you want to hop up, like, I'll happily chat to you about any questions that you have. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Go on.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to steal the spotlight.
Oh no.
Yeah,
It's okay.
Yeah, that was just basically like the main like reason why I was my main question. Another time we can talk about since we're already past 20 minutes about say for example like what does it mean for CTF to be objective, because a lot of like what's been especially pivotal towards my development into becoming a more conservative leaning Christian is understanding that while it is true we want to be objective about our criteria, as CTF implies, I'm not so sold on just taking consensus scholarship at face value anymore. So I used to be part of my story, without going too much into the weeds, is I used to be in the school of thought of like Gary Habermas and Mike Lacona and like the minimalists when it comes to, I guess you could say, our minimalist Christianity, but also minimalist facts for arguing for the resurrection. So maybe I believe Jesus rose from the dead, but I didn't believe like Moses existed for a while, which basically made me like a neo-Marcionite instead of like a Christian. But yeah, maybe we can talk about that some other day. So yeah.
I have a question for you before you leave.
Yeah, go ahead, BBN. Good to see you. You've been unmuted for a while, but yeah, good to see you.
Yeah, I know. I let y'all do your thing. Yeah, can you hear me all right, brother?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you were talking about something about getting something or other published. What were you talking about?
Oh, we're talking about like publishing the scholarly literature. And I didn't get around to making this point, but another point that was, and good to see you, Forge. Thanks for the shout out. Another point that I was going to make is that when you publish an article in the scholarly literature, it's helpful for your academic career, but more people will see a video that I make on YouTube than an academic publication that I put out, right? Like, so unless you're like a really, really big source and, you know, and you publish an article that gets covered by the news media, then, you know, I think I could parlay like some of my apologetical publications into like some notoriety through like Christian media. But I think I'm just not super interested in that right now. And I'm happy for the CTF argument to just sit in the public sphere and the lay sphere. And also, you know, I'm not an academic theologist. I'm a professor, but I'm a professor in a very different field. So,
Okay. Yeah, I was. I can't see the name. What's the other guest's name?
Apollos.
Apollos. Yeah, but I would say, and to either one, but like, I mean, I understand what you guys are saying. Like, I would definitely 100% make videos and stuff like you're saying, because you definitely got a bigger shot at like, you know, getting it out there. But like, if you have a chance to get to publish something in like a legit thing, definitely do it. You know, like like if you have a chance to like make a difference in any of those ways, like yeah, I would never skip out on that. But yeah, like if you're just talking about like, is it going to get more branched out? You know, like yeah, definitely videos is the way to go. I don't know. I just think it's interesting, like because like that's what I don't. That's like when I have a lot of conversations with people on here about different stuff, and I'm happy to go wherever and talk. But a lot of times at the end of the day, I feel like I'm just kind of like mostly spinning wheels. You know, it's like if like I just think like if you got something that's going to change the world, do it. You know, like get it as like deep and as published as you can in any way. You know what I mean? Because if it's actually good and right, and like could change the world, do it. You know what I mean? Like instead of what, like I don't want to ever want to like don't convince me. Like go change the minds of the all these people that write about all these things. I just think if you can publish it and change the world, do it. I don't know. I just think it's a very interesting thing, the whole publishing ideas and stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there's utility to the argument. Like it disproves Islam quite conclusively. If you haven't seen that side of it, and it also disproves Islam in a way that's like quite a bit less. It's less acrimonious and sort of more gentle. Just saying like, here's how good the evidence is. Here's how the evidence compares to the Quran. So I mean, I think that's kind of one of the strengths of it is really more of a ranking argument. But here's the problem. I would never publish the whole CTF. It's too big to fit in a publication. Like it would need to be like 12 or so different publications, right? Because each evaluative criteria becomes its own methodology. And if you publish a paper that has like a dozen different methodology sections, then they're like, no, you got to split this into different publications. So I think you could make a whole career on the CTF in apologetical literature. And I may still get around to that. I think, pseudonym, you feel free to ask a question if you got a question. People can ask us questions in the chat because we're going to be winding down soon if nobody else joins. Yeah. I'm on with Apollos and BBN, but that's it. So if anyone else wants to hop up, you're welcome to hop up. Yeah, Ian, proving Islam doesn't prove Christianity is true. But here's my point, and this is the point of the CTF argument, that I looked at so far I've looked at 18 different theologies, okay? Every world religion that I've looked at does well in some evaluative criteria and does poorly in others. Christianity is the only religion that scores well across the board. Now, this is very surprising to me because it means that at the very least, it's an outlier. Here's what makes it even more surprising is Christianity is an ancient religion. I would have expected, all things being equal, that a 19th or 16th century at least religion would do much better than Christianity. That's not the case. Christianity does better than almost every religion across all the categories, except for the much later religions. So, that's kind of the claim, is that there is, at the very least, an asymmetry in the data. And here's the real point. From an atheist worldview perspective, this becomes an unexplained issue that you have to provide an explanation for. Why does the CTF argument favor Christianity so strongly compared to every other religion? From a neutral prima facie perspective, you would expect all religions to have roughly the same degree of strength in the way they shake out with the data. And that doesn't happen. It's one religion does really well, and it does well across all the evaluative criteria, which is a unique phenomenology across those criteria.
Yeah, for sure. And like one day we're gonna get into that with deeper. But oh,
By the way,
quick question.
I'm addressing some comments in the chat too, but by the way, it's not true to say that it is hard to convert Muslims. By the Islam religion is spreading, but it's spreading by fecundity. It's not spreading because it is a robust theology. In fact, when a Muslim population moves to a Western nation that is not predominantly Muslim, I think that the deconversion rate is really high. It's somewhere around 20 to 30%. So it's an extremely high deconversion rate.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, BBN, you brought up a really good point where you say that it doesn't have to be like one or the other. Like, interestingly enough, like I have already presented it at like my argument at a couple of scholarly venues, just not in like hard journal peer-reviewed print just yet. I'm still trying to get there, but yeah, you bring up a good point where it's like, well, if I already have the argument developed, then why not make a YouTube video out of it, like kind of how Tavo did, you know? So
yeah, especially 100%. And then like if you can get it like publish it to something that's like legit, that too, you know. But I don't have much time, and I actually heard earlier. You said what's her name? Wilson and Andrew Wilson is his wife.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't really take them as like good authorities in general, but
but yeah, man, while I was going to stop, do you know who those people are?
Yeah, for sure.
Do,
I mean,
do I
like,
know who they are?
Yeah.
I watched a bunch of Andrew Wilson debates because I've had some debates here, and I'm not a very good debater. I would rather have a discussion. And I would rather change my mind at the end of the discussion than have a debate and have both sides kind of coming away feeling bad about themselves. I really just don't like having debates. I've done debates on this channel and on other channels. Actually, I haven't done any on this channel, but I've done debates on other channels at invitation. But I don't. And I see that Rex is here too. Rex, if you want to join, we can talk about the video that you're doing. We're doing this video on Wednesday where we're going to be presenting your triage argument. But yeah, I haven't been following. I know there's like a lot of like stuff about the Andrew Wilson, Candace Owen debate.
Yeah, he lost the debate where like he had the correct side. You know what I mean? Like it's like because you know, like I mean, like I think it's pretty clear. Like I usually lean towards like the shit that happened. You know what I mean? But like I just think it's funny because like that, like Candace Owens is like so out there. She's basically a flat earther. Like and
I don't know what she's arguing for, and I haven't been following the whole story. But if anyone wants to summarize the parts that I should know, so that I'm not totally ignorant of like social issues.
Nah, she basically saying that like Israel and Erica Kirk like conspired to like kill Charlie Kirk. That's her idea. You know, it's like, and then like Andrew Wilson and like is basically like I think Tyler Robinson did it. You know, it's like, but. It was just funny because I don't like that guy, and I think he's a very like not good person. I don't like the way they do any of their stuff. And Candace Owens promotes nonsense too all day long. But I just find those people to be very interesting. I was just wondering if you knew, like, I can't, like, they're just in the space. There's nothing I can do. Like, I can't avoid them. You know, it's like because they're just in so much of the stuff that I read because they're always debating people. I don't really consider what Andrew Wilson does debating. He's not very reasonable. He just makes up a lot of stuff. He changes points. Like he'll basically like line you up to talk about one thing and then completely just talk about another thing. You know, like that's not even. So I don't know. I was just wondering if you were aware of those people or not. I mean, I knew you may have seen them, but like have listened to their arguments and stuff. That you know,
Judd Bowen. I know you're joking, but the Earth ain't flat. I actually believe the universe is flat. So I think the universe has flat geometry. Some people 100%. Prefer the term normal to flat, but that's interesting.
And flat. Well, it's like they don't. I mean, like flat earthers don't even understand what flat and level means. They don't even understand those words. So it's like,
yeah,
it's a whole ordeal. But that's a whole nother thing, man. I just got one more quick thing. I'm gonna get out of here because I don't have much time. So like when you think of something like, would you say it's fair to say that Greek mythology was at one time thought of like when it was, you know, around, the people thought of their religion just like any other person, but would you agree like right now it's pretty universally understood that that was just human imagination?
That's a really difficult question to answer. So in other words, the question you're asking is, did the people really believe it? I think we can answer that question pretty well about other things that emerged around the turn of the millennium, but not really about things going that far back. That's just my own personal inclination, having reviewed some of the data. So let me give you an example. There's this healing cult by Alexander of Bonoticus, and Lucian of Samosata did a debunking of this healing cult. This was around in the 1st century. This was roughly a contemporary of Jesus, right? So, but when you look at the actual things that people were saying about this cult, it's not, now this was definitely like high mythology, right? It's healing and magic and all this other stuff. But I'm not really sure that anyone really believed in it. They probably had a core cult of kooky believers, but like, for instance, they didn't let in any skeptics. They didn't let in Christians. They didn't let in any Epicureans, because they just felt like everyone else would mock what they were doing. But at the same time, a lot of people would just go to these. It was the cult of Glycon. It was some snake worship cult. But a lot of people would go to these things because there was so much theatrics to it. It was kind of like going to like a stage show. It was like they had like these mechanical, they had a trained snake in a costume, and they had all these mechanical things going on. So it's pretty clear that there were people who believed in this crazy mythology, but it's also pretty clear that a lot of people didn't believe in it and just went because they were looking at the spectacle. To what extent did ancient religions have the same sway, that people really believed that there was a Zeus who was going to hear their sacrifices? I think probably there were some strong beliefs, but I think at least beginning around the 4th or 5th century BCE, those beliefs probably were waning and people were sort of having a different perspective. Some people talk about how the 4th or 5th century BCE was the advent of sort of complex or abstract intellectual thinking. That's kind of an interesting idea. Some people say that's not a very good characterization, but I think some people say it's not a bad argument. That's a little beyond my expertise, but I think what you're asking is a complex question. I wish I had a better answer. I don't think I do.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
I will say this: at the advent of Christianity, we know that there was very high skepticism. We know that for a few different reasons. Number one, we know that the people who were practicing things that were magic were debunked, right? Like Lucian of Samosata debunking Alexander of Bonoticus. We know that Josephus, when he talked about all these sort of messianic claimants and all these like self-proclaimed wonder workers, the first thing that he says is that all their prophecies failed, and when their prophecies failed, their movements fell apart. Now, he doesn't talk that way about Jesus. He says Jesus was a doer of paradoxical deeds, right? So that suggests to me that there was at least, he would have said, if Jesus was just a sham, he would have said that, Now, that's an argument from silence, but I think it's an important one because he talks about so many other figures that were contemporaries of Jesus. One more thing I'll say. We do know that Jewish witnessing around claims in that area was extremely skeptical. You needed at least 2 witnesses just to change the month, right? And there were all these safeguards that were built in so that if there were 2 people who came forward and witnessed something that, that they wouldn't be able to convince other people that thing happened without, having other, evidentiary support. So if I had to pick anywhere in the ancient world to start a new religion, I would definitely not have picked 1st century Judea. There was very high skepticism. People were very shrewd. People were very questioning. Even if you read the Christian literature, there's a lot of, there's the Pharisees and the Sadducees were arguing against this. Ian Rogel says Josephus never said that about Jesus. No, that's he does. He uses the word paradoxa in Greek. So he does say Jesus was a doer of paradoxical deeds.
Yeah, check out Thomas D. Schmidt's book on Josephus on Jesus.
Exactly. Yeah, Josephus and Jesus by Thomas Schmidt. Great book. Yeah.
Are you going to be on the other thing later?
Yeah, you can talk about his name. You don't have to like call him the other guy. What's his name? What's his name? I Am Warriors. It's just a hard name.
It's like let's talk. Yeah. Well, I know, but like, dude, I give him as much respect. He's a very dishonest dude, so I don't like plugging his channel anymore. So it's like I used to help him out with that, like no problem. And I only go on when there's other people on because I can't talk to the dude much anymore because he's just so dishonest. With like, you'll tell him you'll tell him one specific thing, and you're like, no, that's not how that happened. That's not what anyone thinks. And then he'll just continue to say it, and it's like, and it's just so annoying. And I get very frustrated, and I just can't take it because it's just like dishonesty drives me bananas. So it's like, I'll only go on if you're on there, someone else is on, I'll go on,
Dr. Kurt, I am curious. Have you read T.C. Schmidt? What do you think about the book? Have you read the book? It's a free book, so anyone can get it. It's published by Oxford University Press, so it's a pretty good publisher. But
yeah,
it makes the
I wish I
argument.
could say more, but I got to go. It was good talking to you guys.
Good to see you, BBM.
And if I see you later on, I will. Nice talking to you. Yeah.
All right, good to see you, BBN. Yeah. Well, we can keep chatting. Apollos, do you want to just introduce a little bit summary of your argument, and then we can pick up the conversation over email?
The argument pertaining to what I emailed you, or
yeah, let me see. Dr. Kurt, I would really recommend reading the book. It's actually a really good read. It's quite enjoyable. And I'd be genuinely curious to know what you think about it. I think reading the TF is good, but reading the book is I think a little more interesting. We do have somebody else. Let's bring this Aliso Tough onto the chat.
Right.
Aliso Tough, are you 18 or older?
Yeah, I was born 2007 December.
Oh, okay, good to see you. Nice to have you here. So you're 19.
No, December.
Oh, okay. So you're 18.
Like my birthday ain't passed yet.
Oh, gotcha. But you are 18, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, good to see you.
I got a question, man.
Sure.
So, like, you said you're former atheist, right?
That's right, yeah.
So, are you, like, in a religion?
I'm sort of inclined towards Christianity.
Inclined towards. Okay. Would you be, like, I just want to show you, like, can I actually prove to you that it's, like, the true religion?
Sure,
like,
sure,
it's
yeah.
up to you, man. All right, perfect.
Yeah,
so,
I'd be
like,
that.
would you agree that the Old Testament is older than the New Testament?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So, like, if the Old Testament prophesies the New Testament, right? Would you say that would be a prophecy from God?
If the Old Testament prophesies the New Testament, would I say that's a prophecy from God?
So, like, let's say if I was like 10 years before, like today, right? And I say, God told me that the Canada wildfires would have smoke in America, and it happens. Would you believe that God actually told that man?
I wouldn't necessarily believe it in that example, but I think depending on what the prophecy is, I would believe it. So there's Deuteronomy 12 and 13 and 18 that sort of talk about what the litmus test is for accepting or refuting prophecy. But I would say you would have greater verisimilitude if you predict things and they come true.
So, like, if it predicts, so it would, like, be more, like, realistic. Would you agree that?
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, you would gain credibility.
All right, so I'm going to flip to. I'm not going to go cheap like everyone else does and go to Isaiah 53 or Psalms 22. I'm actually going to go to Proverbs 30 verses 3 and 4. If you have a Bible, you can flip to that if you want to.
Yeah, Proverbs 30.
Yep, verse 3 and 4.
Okay.
And I want you to read it.
I have not learned wisdom, nor have I attained to the knowledge of the Holy One, who has gone up to the heaven and come down.
Yep. No, that's not the full verse.
Oh, keep reading it. Oh,
all
okay.
Right.
Whose hands have gathered up the wind? Who has wrapped up the waters in a cloak? Who has established all the ends of the earth? What is his name, and what is the name of his son? Surely you know.
Now we could also.
I don't know if you know, but earlier in the stream, Tavo did kind of talk about prophecy and what his views were regarding it. So I just wanted to point that out if you weren't in that earlier part of the stream before you go down this rabbit hole.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's nice to hear these arguments. I'm reading the Old Testament in biblical Hebrew. I've read through through
So
to
you know what Edoshim means?
Edoshim. No, I don't remember what that means.
It means holy one.
I'm reading it in the biblical Hebrew, meaning I can phonetically read Hebrew at this point, but I'm still not.
Okay, perfect. So Edoshim is holy ones, right? And if you look at the old Hebrew book, you will also see that this is I have lot more knowledge of the Edoshim, which is holy ones. So that could prove the Trinity, but like I don't want to just take you all the way down over there. But I do want to point out that the Son of God is Jesus Christ. Jesus came down as the Son of God, right?
Yeah, just to answer Pseudonym's question, I'm teaching myself Hebrew as I'm reading, so I can sound out biblical Hebrew. That doesn't mean that I can sight read it and translate it. So I can phonetically read it. In other words,
I'm the same way with Koine Greek. I know the alphabet and can pronounce it, at least according to the Erasmian standard. But anyway,
yeah. Go on.
Yeah, that's my fault because I thought that's my fault. I should have asked first before I pointed out Hebrew stuff. But it's at least good to know, though, right?
Yeah.
So let's say, do you believe Jesus was a historical person?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, and being a historical person, right? Do you believe he claimed to be God?
Yeah, I'm pretty. So here's my belief. Basically, I'm 50 or 55% sure that there's a God. I'm probably 85% sure that if there is a religion that's true, it's a religion based on Jesus. But I would say, let me see. Your question, did Jesus claim to be God? I would say probably yes, probably with, or at least he claimed to have divine authority. I think that he called himself the son of God.
So it's a limited God in the flesh. There can be historical evidence of a limited God in the flesh. And he said that there is a God. So I would believe the limited God in the flesh. And if you would like me to provide those evidence, you can say the word.
Sure, go ahead. I mean, this is interesting.
Okay, perfect.
And we'll probably wrap up after this because we're up over 2 hours. But unless other people want to jump up.
Oh yeah, man. Okay, sure. So so do you believe the people who know Jesus, right, could say for sure what he said and not said?
I'm sorry, can you ask that one more time?
The people that know Jesus, do they have a say on what he said?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, now that we established that, we can either go to a couple things. We can go to Revelation, or we can go to John 1:1. It's up to you. We can go to John or Revelation.
Let's go to John. Revelation is a little bit too metaphorically opaque for me.
Okay. Oh no, it's a literal sense in Revelations 1. All right, so we're gonna go John 1:1, and the word is Jesus Christ in this sense. So if you could go to John 1:1, that would be amazing. Hold up, let me go to John real quick.
I got John 1 up.
Okay, perfect. So just read John 1:1.
In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God.
Do you know what that means?
I think so, yeah. In the beginning was the Word. The Greek word for that is logos. The Word was with God. The Word is Jesus.
Yeah.
Right, and the Word was God.
So it's saying Jesus was God?
Yeah.
Perfect. Go to 1:14, John 1:14.
The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only Son, who came from the Father, full of grace and truth.
Oh, so not only as God became flesh, he's also the Son of God in the in the metaphorical and literal sense, as we already saw in Proverbs 30, verse 3 and 4. So that not only has that prophecy's been fulfilled, and in Psalms 22, when they said, my God, why have you forsaken me? Jesus said that on the cross. But now that we're over here, we can see that Jesus became flesh. So that's God being flesh. And then he's limited in that flesh. So as he's limited in that flesh, they said the glory of the one and only Son who came from the Father, full of grace and truth. So will Jesus be God in like this passage?
Yes. Yeah.
Perfect. And we
I
both
think
agree
John
he's
claims.
historical.
I think John claims that Jesus is God.
Okay, the Apostle John. So that's perfect. And we all know he knew Jesus. And none of the apostles corrected him, and God didn't correct him. So he said, because he got his teachings from Jesus, right? And
Yeah.
the apostles all agreed with him. That's how do you think Jesus died? He got crucified for claiming to be God. That's the whole rabbit hole of that. And that's also a historical document. So by that means, John claiming that Jesus is God, Jesus doesn't correct him because he himself claims to be God. We can go. Hold up. All right, I thought I was about to sneeze.
I mean, I realize that we're kind of in the domain of preaching, but I'm okay with that because we're kind of getting close to the end of the stream, and I think this is fine. And in my mind, no, I think you're doing great, and I think this is kind of like a friendly environment for you to make these arguments. And Apollos, feel free to chime in and like give pushback where you think an atheist interlocutor would give pushback.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, I do kind of agree with the general sentiment that Eliza, it looks like, was a little bit preachy. I just wanted to point out that the prompt said former atheist, not ask an atheist anything. So I don't know if you were aware.
Oh, I don't mind that. Yeah. I mean, I think, I think we're kind of getting to the end of the chat, and like, there's nobody else waiting, and I mean, I'm kind of just sympathetic because, like, you're 18, you're doing a really good job. I don't want to be like, that's off topic.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like,
yeah, I mean, plus I think you're doing a really good job. If you haven't seen OD3 on day 3, he does a lot of the syllogisms that you're doing right now, or a lot of these concatenations of passages, and he's got a really great. He sent me like this guide that has basically his walkthrough of all this stuff. I think. I think you should check out his stuff, and if you ever wanted to email him, he'll send you all his workflows on this stuff.
What's his name?
On day 3, I'll put his channel in the comment. He does a lot of what you're doing right now, actually. Oh, it's OD3. I think on day 3. .od3. There it is. Okay, I'm pretty sure that this is the channel. So, and somebody can okay, here it is. Yeah. So Macintosh Pro put it here. But he does exactly what you're doing, but I think you're doing a great job, and particularly for being 18. Yeah.
I was saying, if you want me to pray for you, that's fine. Like, it's up to you, man.
I would never turn that down, but if you want to pray for the people who are watching and just kind of like, and then you're welcome to tell us how we can find your channel and advertise your channel a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's like right there. To be honest, it's just my name.
Oh, okay, so it's I'll sub to you right now. YouTube.com. Whoops. /
All right, but yeah, I gotta go to bed though. It's 10:07 where I'm at.
At least so is that your channel? Here, I'll put it on right now.
Yeah,
that's your channel.
Well, I gotta go to bed. It's 10:07 from where I'm at, and it's like nighttime.
No worries. Well, I'll look for your channel later, and I'll sub to you. I appreciate you coming on.
All right, man. God bless.
Yeah, good to see you.
All right, bye, Apollo.
See ya.
All right. Well, that was interesting, and I'm going to sub to his channel, and I would encourage people to do that as well. Okay, and thanks Macintosh Pro for putting up his channel there. That's his channel. Okay, I think I clicked the wrong one, so let me see.
Have you gotten calls like that in the past, Tavo?
Not that many, really. I mean, because I think most people, I feel like most of our audience consists of atheists, but I think that's. I mean, I don't. He's 18. He's practicing his. I was not very persuasive when I was 18 years old, so I couldn't have strung. Oh, we have Gloria Sean, who was on here earlier, so I'm going to add her to the stage, and we'll probably wind down fairly soon, but let's bring up Gloria. Gloria, are you 18 years old? At least.
Hello?
Yeah, this is Gloria.
Can you hear me?
How old are you?
I'm 27.
You're what?
27.
And you sound like a male. You have a female name.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I am.
Well, good to see you. And anything you want to ask?
No, I just want to ask, do you think that with the way things are going, do you think Christians and atheists can coexist?
Can Christians and atheists coexist?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. I think our society is becoming more acrimonious, and that creates an incumbent pressure on all of us, a moral imperative to try to do a better job of getting along with each other, to try to do a better job of relating to each other, to try to do a better job of understanding each other. But I definitely think we can coexist.
Now, the problem is that I'm noticing something among the atheist community, that they are becoming increasingly toxic.
I think a lot of people are becoming increasingly toxic in general. Yeah. I try to do a pretty good job of being very polite on this channel. I try to do a good job of not being overly confrontational. And I try to do a good job of engaging with the assumption that everyone who's on the channel with us does think that they're coming from the right perspective. Everyone in the chat, everyone who comes up and chats with me on the panel, all believe that they are representing the right side of the argument and that they're doing it for earnest, good beliefs. And when you have that sort of set of presumptions about people, then I think it enables you to have a better conversation.
Like, for example, the recent Jubilee debate between these two people. Do you watch the recent Jubilee debate?
I've seen a couple of the Jubilee debates. Yeah.
Yes, between them, what is the name of this woman that is a conservative Christian, and the other woman that is maybe atheist? I don't know.
I don't
think
remember.
Ali Beck something. I don't remember.
Yes.
Okay.
And
yeah,
so
go ahead.
the conservative woman was trying to dialogue with her, but the other woman was kind of confrontational, that she must.
Yeah, that was
accept her own
basically.
view.
I was gonna chime in a little bit. I think that the potential division you might be seeing between quote unquote Christians and atheists are more so represented by like these mega political like identities we attach ourselves to, because we do unfortunately live in like a bipartisan like election system, which fosters a lot of conflict and disharmony, but there's a lot to say about that. So,
and that's changed a lot since I was young. When I was young, we were in a society where you could disagree with somebody as much as you wanted without thinking that they're a bad person or that they deserve to suffer. I feel like that ethos has been lost, right? The idea that somebody is wrong and that they don't deserve to suffer is become a more nuanced perspective, and I think it's too bad that it's lost.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, okay, can I talk?
Yeah, of course.
Now, one of the reasons, me too, I'm also an ex-atheist myself before I return back to religion. But the way the atheist community looks or talk to maybe religious people, they look at them like, do you know this channel Christ Before Jesus?
Can you say that? I think I lost your last phrase. Do I know this?
Do you know this channel known as Christ Before Jesus? My YouTube
the channel? I don't know
Christ.
that channel offhand, no.
Now, this guy, I was like trying to ask him, what is the reason? And then all of a sudden he said that he wants to prove that Christians are stupid. What is the meaning of that? Why would he say that Christians are stupid people?
Yeah, I mean, calling somebody stupid is not a nice thing to do. And also that doesn't disprove their argument. You can be stupid and still have the correct perspective, right? You could be stupid and still get the right answer. So,
and in my own point of view, like when someone do that, you should always expect a reactionary action, because to me, I just feel that the atheist community are pushing Christian away and they are making them more right wing. Like me, I used to be a liberal Christian. Now looking at the way the action of the atheist community, I'm now becoming more right-wing and conservative than before, because I feel that I need to defend myself because they are trying to impose their own view on me.
Well, I think what you're touching on is a very real tendency that we're kind of in this era of cancel cultures, right? So, when that it is very big on the left, right? There's this idea that, as soon as you say the wrong thing, you sort of get, annihilated by everybody who's on your side. Like, I've been watching Bill Maher for years, and he used to be way, way, way on the left, and the whole conversation has sort of moved in the opposite direction. And now, like, when he says something, that there's like a lot of push on Twitter to like cancel him for the things he says. Now, I don't agree with everything he says, but I feel like that idea of like somebody can be wrong and that doesn't mean that you have to cancel them is also something that's lost. But yeah, I don't think you should call people stupid. I don't think you should be mean towards people.
But all I'm just saying is that this atheist community, especially toxic part, like, to me, like, just like the way they say Christians, the right side of Christian is Christian fundamentalism. I tend to see that the toxic side, the bad side of atheism is like toxic atheism. And they are pushing Christians away to form their own community because, like, it's creating a reactionary movement within the Christians that they feel threatened and they need to defend themselves. That's why I just feel that these atheists are kind of doing, because like people that used to be liberal Christian, now they are becoming much more right-wing Christian, conservative, because of the way the atheists are like making them look as if they made a mistake tolerating them.
I mean, anything to say on that, Apollos?
I guess like just the idea of like trying to frame the situation as this atheist community does that and this atheist community I guess what kind of gets lost is the understanding that our moral agency is not necessarily dependent on what our surroundings are. And yeah, for sure, that's definitely a contestable moral claim. But I do think it is a Christ-like attitude to adopt that, regardless of, whether our opponent chooses to slap our cheek, that we do turn the other and hold our own moral obligations internally. So that might just be my bias.
At the same time, I think you run the risk of being too reactionary and then falling prey to the same tendency, right? Like, let's say like you went on an atheist channel and they called you stupid and you're like, these atheists are so mean. And then it becomes, you're really otherizing that group, right? And it's really easy to do. And it's hard to sort of have the nuance of like, humans are subject to hasty generalization in general, so which is itself a generalization, right? But it's harder to be like, I was talking with a group of people who are unfriendly and they are not representative of the community. That's sort of a harder discussion to internalize, right? So, I mean, it's the same way like when your girlfriend breaks up with you and you're like, no one's ever going to love me. The reason why you do that is because you're like, I'm taking this one person as representative of an entire population. In the same way, I don't doubt that you had a real experience where atheists were mean to you. I think that what the challenge is now is that it's incumbent on you to say these people individually were unkind to me. That doesn't necessarily mean that any atheist is going to treat me that way.
Okay. Like, for example, if a atheist put a prompt, Jesus is a fraud or Jesus is a fool, how do you feel as a Christian when someone put Jesus is a fraud or Jesus is a fool and say, come and prove me wrong? How will you feel?
I don't really feel any way because generally I understand that they're just trying to get clicks and they're just kind of rage bait, So the more you rage bait, the more anger drives engagement. So I would say that person is probably incorporating a strategy to grow their presence on social media rather than purposefully trying to antagonize people. I doubt that person sincerely believes that Jesus was a fraud or that Jesus was terrible. Like, it's probably, or maybe they do, but the point is that a lot of what's driving that titling is that they're just trying to rage bait people to get engagement.
Well, anyhow, but I just feel that I don't think the time for coexisting is over. I doubt maybe we can ever coexist. Well, anyhow, later.
I wouldn't, you're not saying, I think I lost a couple of words there. You're not saying the time for coexistence is over, right? I think we're
Yes,
still,
I believe it's over.
you think we shouldn't coexist?
I believe we can coexist, but only if they are tolerant. But if they don't believe that, to me, I feel that most atheists, they feel that we are, like, maybe we are the problem, that maybe we are a victim and they want to free us. That is
So what's the alternative you're suggesting?
No, I'm not saying alternative, but most time, most atheists, they think that we are, most religious people are gullibles. As if, like, for example,
Are what? I'm sorry?
Are gullible people that
gullible.
Religious, gullible. And
well,
they fail to realize
here's the thing: if you sort of paint the other side with a wide brush, then you're not going to save anyone, you know. So I don't pretend that anyone's going to have their mind or heart changed by anything that I say. But I feel like the best testimony that I can give to an atheist who comes on the channel is to be a good representative of like Christ-like behavior. And that specifically entails saying, until it becomes totally intolerable for me, I'm going to coexist with you. I'm going to engage with you. I'm going to have a conversation with you. And I'm going to assume that you're reacting in good faith. And I would say that probably 99.95% of the people who've come onto this channel have engaged with me in very earnestly good faith. So I would argue that this channel is a testimony to the fact that coexistence is something we have the moral imperative to do. I'm sorry you had that experience though, Gloria, and I apologize, but you know, I wouldn't give up on people just because, like, you know, when you react with people on the internet, you're often reacting with the least filtered version of people and the pastiche of themselves. I would just say, you know, I approach a conversation as like, look, I'm trying to learn something here. I have some beliefs, but not all of my beliefs are, you know, but you have some beliefs too. And I'm sure that you have some validity to what you're saying. I think the worst thing that we can do is say the other side's not going to listen to me, so I'm just going to give up, because that's never my mission. My mission was never get an atheist to sit down and listen to me until I'm done talking and until they change their mind. That's never my mission. If God converts anyone because of me, it's going to be because he converted that person. You know, it's not, my goal is to just tell people what my thoughts are and what my feelings are. And if their hearts and minds open up a little bit, I think that's great. But if they just come away with the same beliefs, well, you know, that's okay too. If they come away thinking, well, I disagree with that person, but I've made a good friend, then that's even better. And that's really maybe the best outcome that I could hope for.
And you can probably attest to this too, but at least for my story, like, I didn't become more inclined towards Christianity because someone was saying, oh, well, it's because these atheists did that and we can't coexist anymore. It was actually quite the opposite. It was, you know, while I was an atheist, like, people were still reaching out to me, still caring for me, and particularly my parents. They never gave up on me, and accepted me for who I was at that time, but still hoped for a better outcome. So you could probably attest a little bit to that too, Tavo, with like your current situation. Like, what kind of drove you to be more inclined towards Christianity wasn't like, you know, a bunch of street preachers, you know what I mean? So.
Well, that's true too. I mean, well, I wouldn't say that they didn't play a role. You know, I think street preaching is good too. But I would say, like, you know, I went to a lot of churches and I'd be like, well, what do you think about this? Here, I have all these questions. They'd be like, you're going to go to hell and you need to get rid of the doubt. And then that's the end of it. Right. And then I went to a church who was like, you know, we disagree with you, but come here and have conversations with us. And we'll talk to you as long as you want to talk to us. And we'll tell you when we think you're wrong, but you know, you can take or leave that. And I think that's the best perspective, because that's like saying to somebody like, you're not where I am, but you know, I have faith that you'll get there. And I really feel that strongly when I talk to people on this channel. I'd like the atheist in the conversation to sound off. Have I been adequately humanizing of you? Like, I never want to get to this perspective where I'm like, you are refractory, I can't converse with you at all, except for Dr. Kurt. Other than Dr. Kurt, all the atheists here are, I try to be nice to you. No, I'm just kidding. No, I really do try to be nice to everybody, and I hope I've done a good job of that. I don't always do. Sometimes I think about it later and I'm like, oh, I should have been nicer to this person. But all right, well, I'll probably wind it down there. But anything you want to say? Any closing words you want to say, Gloria?
No, that is all. Thanks.
Good. Gloria, come back anytime, because I think you're going to hear people really. I think this channel is doing something important, which is I think we are at the forefront of having really great conversations with people and acknowledging that we're not going to see eye to eye, but acknowledging that, you know, we're still going to walk away with a friendship, and we're, in the best case, we'll each walk away having learned something. So I hope you come back. Apollos, any other closing words? Well said, Adrian. We have to love each other, whether you believe or not. Straight up, yeah.
Yeah,
oh, Dean, good to see you. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely echo the sentiment that, you know, this channel is doing something important when it comes to, you know, fostering these deeper conversations instead of like the clickbait, sort of like rage bait, try to like popularize this person so that, you know, it drives engagement and stuff like that. Like, particularly the reason why I'm subscribed to you, Tavo, is because I did think that the CTF argument was pretty novel, and it was a pretty novel synthesis of like where someone should basically scaffold the rest of like their objective theistic gambling. But in general, like, I definitely echo the sentiment that, you know, I always refer to myself as like an apologetics research channel, so I look forward to, you know, deeper, non-confrontational, more substantive, insightful, you know, synthesis of data with you and others, Tavo. So yeah.
Yeah, likewise. I'm curious to know, atheists, sound off in the chat. In the chat, am I being nice enough, or am I being too nice? Christians, sound off if you think I'm being too nice. Atheists, sound off if you think I'm not being nice enough. I'd love to know your opinions. We are going to probably close things down, Odin. So, but we should definitely have like a real chat with your arguments. So, email me. We'll get you on the channel. We'll get something scheduled. I would love that. I think I'd be over the moon. Adrian, thanks for all the comments in the chat, and thanks for recommending people sub. We're almost at 1,000 subscribers. So, I hope we keep having good conversations. I'm surprised nobody sounded off on my question yet. Macintosh Pro said you're too nice. So am I being too nice, or am I not being nice enough? I'd love to know. Space Cadet Jen said, whatever that led you to believe in God? Oh gosh, I feel like we're gonna wind down. So why don't I'll start that next. Yeah. But Chris, good to see you. Adrian, really love to see you. Odin, all the Christians are telling me I'm doing it. Oh, okay. Here's our first atheist answer. You're okay for a Christian. Love Tavo, lol Tavo. Okay, I appreciate that, Kelly. Good to see you, Kelly. Nice to see you as always. Okay, well, all right. Well, really good to chat with you all. Really good to have you all here. We'll have more conversations, and Space Cadet Jen, I do apologize. We've been at it for like 2.5 hours, so at this point I got to wind things down. But we're on here every single Monday, 5 p.m. PST. So we're always happy to chat more, and I'd love that. All right. Well, good to see you all. I hope you all have a really lovely rest of your evening, and please have a really wonderful day. And end stream.